The tired man was lying on the bed. He thought about what he was doing. 3 years ago, he was hired by a regular worker in one company. He remembered how he offered fast weight loss. At the same time, he told people that it is better for them to find nothing. The guy realized that he was deceiving others and himself. It became the worst news when you have a permanent job. On the TV, the speaker spoke about the bankruptcy of the company. The same sad and tired guy asked to pick him up. He was indifferent, where they would only be taken to another world. And here, among the ancient ruins of Arthelfia, stone buildings are overgrown with ivy, and trees have already grown in some homes. The Elfian was delighted. She considered this place incredible. She did not believe that they would be able to find a human relic in such a perfect condition. She returned to the decks and thanked her. He was always around the road here. The girl was very worried because only they could escape. The cat scratched his cheek because of shame, but laughed. The Dex asked the girl what she found. She looked at her palm. There was something in his hand. The girl said it was a hairpin. She was sure it was a historically important find. The Dex gladly said that they had coped well and wanted to see this ancient thing. The girl did not see any problem in this. She asked him to be careful because this relic would be the most valuable thing in the royal treasury. The cat realized that it was the remnant from ancient creatures that have already disappeared. Suddenly, Dex chased his teeth and laughed loudly. The girl was distracted by the study of the find. She thought why he was laughing. He addressed the boss because he believed that she should trust others less. He lifted the hair to the muzzle and considered their find carefully. The Dex added that she was already tired of following her everywhere. The girl was surprised and realized that he wanted to betray her. She called him a fool. Suddenly, the girl's eyes opened wide. The Dex threw the found treasure to his mouth, a loud swallow sound immediately. The girl began to tremble with anger because she did not believe that he really did it. At this point, the Dex was illuminated by bright light. He felt the force flowing in his veins and understood the nature of this power. At the same time, he looked at himself. The girl thought he didn't understand what he was doing. This hair was very valuable. The Dex said he knew it. The cat's paw began to glow even brighter, and his hand became muscular. He told her that this would use this power. The girl was amazed by his behavior and did not know how to act. The Dex said he would use power to become the ruler of the world. Elf seriously stated that she had no choice. A fiery ball appeared in her hand. The girl brought a burning shell on the Dex. The girl was surprised when the dust was scattered from her ball. The little cat Dexus has turned into a large, strong monster. The Dex laughed loudly and shouted that her blows were in vain. Then he tried to attack the Elfian. She was able to return to the past. The girl realized that it was the power of human artifact. Only one hair gave all this effect. She wondered how strong the person was. The elf closed his face with his hand. A bright light broke out in the sky. In the center there was a body that went to them. The girl looked at it in surprise. Her eyes were wide open. There was a loud blow to the fall of a man. Behind him, a bright pillar of light appeared. Elf enclosed from the wind and dust that the guy raised. The dust was scattered. 2 legs were sticking out of the pit. Dex and girls stood and did not understand what happened. His feet were still sticking out of the hole without moving. At the same moment, the legs began to move. Something moved in the pit and the body appeared. It began to inspect the place where it fell. The guy didn't understand where he found himself. He was certain that he had recently slept at home. The guy thought it was a dream, though everything looked very real. Suddenly he noticed a shining kitten and did not realize that it was standing right in front of him. The Dex wanted to know who this man was. He scared him so much that he began to stutter and say that he was an ordinary man. It surprised the elf. The guy remembered what he said and did not understand his meaning. But he did not have cat ears or tail like this guy, so this answer seems appropriate to him. The Dex repeated his words about her husband and immediately offended him. At this point, the cat shouted angrily, thinking that Dex had decided to make him joke. The guy thought he had offended him. Dedard began to beat the guy. The guy defended himself from blows. The Dex accurately hit the guy in his hands, but at the same moment, a strong blow disappeared. It even surprised the guy. The Dex was surprised that he was able to stop the attack. The guy stood frightened. The Dex himself was afraid and did not understand what was happening. He thought it was the filming because he hid everything very quickly. He didn't care. There was a sweet heroine and villain. He still thought it was a dream, a joke, or a movie shooting. It would be good if everything was. He was waiting for him to be told that he was played. In the end, the guy realized that this was the world he wanted. But he still did not want to be the hero of the movie. The guy decided to attack the Dex and shout it to him to understand him. He put his hand on his chest, and the cat flew into the wall of the ruins, leaving a dent there. The Dex exhaled the air loudly. The man began to clap his hands and said that Dex is a wonderful stunt. The girl opened her mouth in surprise. She couldn't believe it. The big cat moaned with pain, swayed the tongue, and gasped. Dex was breathing hard. The guy was in a battle stand and thought it was not the end. The guy shouted Dex that he would answer everything. When the villain disappeared, the guy fell to the ground and tried to breathe. He decided not to think about it anymore. The more interesting the dream is, the easier it is to forget it. But this dream was bright and real. In a dream, he felt extremely conscious. The guy thought again that it was shooting, and if so, there were very beautiful landscapes. Suddenly, he was in the dress. The Elfian thanked him for the salvation. He asked who she was. She apologized that she had not introduced herself before. The girl was named Ryus. She was an Elfian. The guy called himself Joji Amazaki. He added that he is a man. Aro was glad to see him. She was happy because he was a real revered husband. Yogi was silent and did not understand what was happening. He thought it was strange. Ray thought something was wrong and asked him with a smile. The guy thought that the ears of Ryus did not look like monkey. There were no cameras nearby. She also spoke mysterious things. Paradise asked to thank him again for his help. She did not think that human artifact could have such power. Its use gives great power. Ag asked for forgiveness because he wanted to find out if he was really called to another world. For him, everything that happened was just as unexpected. In the end, he realized that their worlds are completely different. In his world, the usual cars, and in this, huge dragons. The guy thought he was called into the world of dreams and magic he read and dreamed of. He wanted to find out whether the inhabitants of this world were legendary creatures. The girl agreed with him. Ray said that people were an ancient and a mighty race. They are called absolute beings and honored in many religions. Herji said that he seems like elves have a very high status. They are experts in magic, smart, balanced, can do everything but not perfect. Suddenly, Paradise returned to the guy. She said that here in Artelphia, he is an absolute creature. People are so strong that her subordinate betrayed her only through one of his hair. But he realized that it was cruel. He did not understand how he could do so. The Dex was constantly running into the forest. The guy wanted to know how to live in this world. He did not understand how he could walk the city if even a small part of his body causes so much attention. Ray said that if the world learned of its existence, the guy immediately interrupted it and wondered. Being called to another world sounds so senseless that nothing will surprise him. Paradise continued that there would be no doubt the world war between the countries for the right to own its power. She did not expect them to go so far. The young man was stunned and asked why they were doing it. Paradise replied that the one who has the power of man in his hands could control the whole world. In the art of the mafia, part of the human body is called relics and used as a tactical weapon. She gave an example of the Dex who turned into a strong monster. If the existence of a living person is probably confirmed in the world, Eji did not understand how possible. He must tell him how to live in this world, because he wants to live quietly and without unnecessary conflicts, if possible. He did not want to return to the life of a corporate worker. Therefore, if you can start a new life here, it is sure to take this opportunity. He did not want to be in the center of the world war. She imagined that she was escaping from those who pursue him because relics should belong to their country. Ria said there was one way out. Eiji hoped that it would help him. He could not just appear in front of others, so he could only ask for help in Ray. He wanted to know where the exit. The girl returned to him and said that they should build a place for a peaceful life. She stood in the sun, and her smile was clearly visible. The guy was upset at once because he did not understand what she meant. Ria explained that people adore in this world, but there are also bandits who want to get some of his strength. Jeze has to create his own base to reflect the attacks of enemies and collect experienced associates. He has no other choice. The guy thought she was joking, but the girl said it wasn't a joke. Edgy hoped that they would find a quieter path, but Ria said that there was no such way. But she asked him not to worry. The girl sat on one knee and returned to him again. She wanted to ask if she would allow her to do something. The girl lowered her head and smiled. Ray said she would serve him and swore allegiance. The disappeared people and their forces caused him to be called into this world. He has a lot of questions left. It may be not so bad, especially with the river. He is tired of life. Decorating himself and others, AG always dreamed of such. The guy reached out to the girl and asked to take care of him. He sought to get into the world where he was needed. The girl looked at him happily and smiled, agreeing with admiration. AG began a new life and felt at least someone needed. AG turned to Rio when she helped him cross the stream because he wanted to find out where they would start. The girl replied that first it was necessary to hide it. She was worried about what Dex was doing now. They could not talk about AG until they create their base. The guy wanted to know how to do it. Ray asked him to follow her. A cave covered with creepers appeared in front of them. AG did not understand where they were. The girl said that this shelter was left of her grandfather. Ray raised her hand. The lantern with the crystal lit up, and light in the cave. It was very impressed by the guy. The girl added that such places are around the world. There were various items on the shelves. The guy again said it was incredible. Growed that her grandfather was a man. A good man in glasses appeared in memory. She could not call his work safe. Through work, he often dealt with relics. He traveled to the world and fought with bandits who wanted to take possession of human power. Eiji realized that humanoids of this world should be strong. The guy noticed that there are many weapons. He was addressed to the master. Ray decided that this place would be a shelter for them for a while. Eiji agreed, but he noted that there was only one bed here. Raya said he could sleep on the bed, and she would stand on a guard at the entrance. She has enough of 30 minutes of sleep a day. It surprised the boy, and he repeated her words. Eiji said that even when she returns home late, she could not fall asleep and not notice how the morning comes. She added that if you can sleep, you need to use it. The guy was crying, understanding her words. The guy offered to sleep on the floor and Rika on the bed. The girl said she could not afford such boldness. Harry realized that it looked to her as if she were forcing God to sleep on the floor. The guy invited her to lie down with him on the bed and smiled widely. Rhea rolled her eyes and blushed immediately. She shouted suddenly, not believing his words, and waved her hands with refusal. Eiji began to apologize. She said they could find another way if something is not suitable. The guy realized that he had fallen, but did not have hidden intentions because the bed was quite wide. Then he thought he was just looking for an excuse. Rhea said she would not really interfere with her if she did so. She decided that he would now be his guardian. He said it was mutual, but it seemed to him that they behaved like newlyweds. Sleeping with him in one bed was normal, and leave it on the floor, no. The girl suggested going to the case, and the guy was red. She approached him too quickly. She pressed her lips to the lips. The guy was confused and thought if it could be done. In his head, the idea was to start acting. Raya, holding the mop, brought him out of thought so that they could be removed here. The guy agreed with her. It was an evening, and Eiji was sitting on a bed and ate dried meat. Suddenly he looked at the entrance to their shelter. Raya was sitting at the exit, and he wanted to find out if she wanted to eat. The girl said it was dried meat, all that they left. She promised to catch the food in the morning. The boy became even shy. He reached out the meat and said he had already bitten, but if she wanted. The girl reached out and refused because she couldn't do it. The guy lifted a piece of meat close to her face. He said he could get into trouble if she is hungry, because they can then attack them. The girl began to pour saliva and swallowed with fear. Paradise thanked him and said that he was obliged for life. The guy replied that it was too. The girl apologized and still decided to try. The girl suddenly felt something in her body. She grabbed the pendant around her neck and took a deep breath. Her skirt rose and she blushed. She was confused and tried to cover up, holding a piece of meat in her mouth. Eiji did not understand what happened to her. The girl began to behave even more. Blood flowed from her mouth, and suddenly she screamed. The guy wanted to make sure that everything was well with her, because the girl fell on her knees. But Raya said it was incredible because she felt the human power of the master. She explained that his saliva remained on the meat. She also felt that her magical power has increased significantly. Eiji thought and realized that this indirect kiss had strengthened her very much. The hair alone had a strong effect. She imagined that fresh saliva works even more powerful. She returned to the master and noticed she was no longer hungry. But the guy thought that people in this world are very strong. Suddenly, something was stuck in the bushes. Something strange appeared near the storage. It was the first morning in another world. Eiji reached on the bed. He realized that he had got a good sleep, what was not there for a long time. Suddenly the guy noticed. His hand lies on the chest. He raised his hands immediately and shouted, and then remembered that they decided to temporarily stay in the shelter of grandfather Raya and went to bed yesterday. The girl fell asleep on the bed and snored. In Eiji, the heart was very clogged. The guy realized she was sweet. He looked at the girl's body and was even more confused. She was right back and still slept firmly. Yet he looked at the lower part of the girl's body. He immediately realized it and turned away. The guy began to get out of bed and think how almost made a mistake, reassuring himself. She thought about collecting water while Rio is sleeping. He was already going to the exit when he collided with something. The guy opened his eyes in surprise without realizing that it was. I immediately heard the cry of the master. Ray grabbed from bed and took her clothes. The girl did not know why Eiji exclaimed so loudly, but was already running to him. She saw a guy who was touched on what he was scared and looked at the river in a question. The passage was covered with a large snail. Elf explained to his master that it was really a snail. I couldn't believe it. It seemed to him that the snails in this world were too large. But Raya did not agree, because even newcomers could usually overcome them. The girl suggested that Jiaz went to the nearest source at night. The guy said he just had dried up in his throat. Raya explained that the reason was that, most likely, the snail absorbed the spring water, which she drank. The guy thought and realized that it was like Ree's behavior yesterday. But in any case, they had a problem, and at such a pace they will not come out. Ray, with explicit enthusiasm, said she didn't need to worry. She asked the master to leave, and he hid behind a turn. The girl kept a light bullet in her hand again. Ria said that this opponent was not a threat to her and launched a fireball again. Frightened by a loud roar, Eiji sat down and closed his head with his hands. The RI remained stable in smoke after its attack. The guy was surprised by her strength, but then everyone looked at the smoke. They were both surprised and loudly exclaimed because the snail remained unharmed. The girl was angry and wanted to attack again, promising to hurt him. Eiji asked her to wait. The mucosa did not show hostility to them from the beginning. If he wanted to attack, he would have done it a long time. He returned to Slyak, remembering that he came here in business. Snail immediately made joyful sounds that scared people in front of him. Suddenly, Ray returned to the master again, because Snail began to change the shape. The girl covered him with her hand to protect. At the same time, a huge snail turned into a small droplet that was quiet. The snail stuck to the leg of Jiaj, but Ria could not believe that this monster would obey someone. The guy sat down and asked the snail to give him a paw, and then another. This was very pleased with Eiji, because the little snail understood him. They decided to give him a name and named Leeson because he became one of them. Therefore, he began to try and make approving sounds. RIA realized that there was nothing wrong with that. They also received a strong subordinate. Perhaps this is the first step to the world where the owner will be able to live quietly. Meanwhile, Miss Card is in the capital. The girl was sitting in the bathroom and thinking if her sister was looking at the same month as she. The girl went to the bathroom and turned to Rosa for a new task. It turned out that the first reconnaissance detachment disappeared. The rose was immediately surprised and frightened. The girl who came in told me to take a second detachment and immediately go in search of ancient ruins. She remembered that the ruins were near the forest of the Ostrad in the west. Rose wanted to find out what had happened to her sister because the news did not rest her. Ray told the master that he was hunting. The guy was distracted from the snail in his arms and said he wanted to go with her. The girl immediately said that she would not worry. Ag put Lizzie on the floor and said that she was always boring at home. Due to his magical forces, Lisa absorbed a lot of magical energy. The guy realized that he should be careful, but he needed to know more about this world. After leaving the hiding place, Edgy ordered the lizard to monitor the house. She began to jump joyfully, agreeing. The boys were already in the forest. Ray has aptly put an arrow in a bird. She began to fall from a tree with a loud rustle. She was delighted to say that she was all right. Ray did not see anything special here. If you add a little magic, the arrow becomes stronger. The girl could control her a little. She got an arrow from a bird. She told the boy that this bird is bald and had delicious meat. The guy thought and realized that it was good to have a helper like Rhea. Now it was necessary to process the bird so that it could be cooked. The girl began to cultivate the bird, and blood drops flew all the way. The guy was very impressed. Ray said that the taste depends on whether all the blood was released. Ag thought that I was glad to have Ray. He lived alone and always ate food from shops. Suddenly, the guy noticed that in this world for 2 months. The girl said that there is only 1 month in their world. Ag confirmed this and specified that the moon is white with a yellow tint. He added that he had never seen a red or blue moon like them. Ria said she would like to visit their world. Yeji looked sad at her, and the girl paid attention to him. He got up, rubbed his head, and said that his world was not so good. The girl looked at him with sadness. The man said he wanted to know more about her world. He hopes they will be fun together. Ray smiled immediately. She thanked Edgy with joy. The guy mentioned he wanted to know if he was able to use magic. The girl agreed and lifted her finger up, creating a small flash. She said that magic violates the laws of the universe with its power. His strength is so great that even strong magic will not be a problem for him. She shook her head and said that they were already here. He would also like to catch an animal. Suddenly he noticed something. It was a heavenly dragon. They are usually calm, but once every 100 years go down to the ground and take effect. The girl finished and looked at the dragon. She remembered her childhood when the heavenly dragon went down to the ground and set it on fire. Yijay noticed that the girl had paved sharply and asked if everything was fine. Rhea smiled and said that he would not worry. She just dizzy. Yijay asked her not to overstress. Now he wanted to use his magic on Stragoon. Ray said to imagine the purpose and what he wanted to do. Reading the spell will help you better imagine. He realized that there was no need to impose a spell, but it was his first time, so he decided to act as Rhea says. The guy raised his hand and created a spell of a fireball. After that, the complete silence came. Edgy blushed and thought that he had not coped. Ray asked the wizard to look up. The man lifted his head after her hand and immediately faded. A cold sweat spoke on his forehead. He realized that he had done. A bright circle appeared in the sky, inside which there was a heavenly dragon. He could not stand this blow and quickly flew up. His figure became smaller. Ray was even more fond of the master. It seemed incredible that he destroyed the heavenly dragon from such a distance. Eiji did not understand what had happened because the dragon just disappeared. He wondered what would be if you use a spell on a forest animal. Ray said that the entire surrounding space would turn into burning ruins. She realized that he did not do it. He told the girl that he probably should not use magic. Raya replied that then it would be possible to find items that overcome it. Suddenly, bright light appeared over them. The guy could not understand what had happened, but Rhea asked him to look up. There it turned out that the blue moon disappeared. The girl said again that he was incredible because she was able to destroy even a month. Eiji thought she was laughing at him. He explained that it is not bad because he worries for an ecosystem. Ray thought and said that everything happened because the moon was too fragile. Then she tried to prove to him that the wine in this month, and he did not need to worry. Ag enthusiastically agreed that she was right. He suggested returning to the hunt, and the girl agreed. The guy decided not to worry about it. Before entering the cave, the boys sat at the table and ate the newly cooked food. Ag said it was delicious as usual. Rhea put her hands and said that she was very pleased to hear it from him. It's been 3 days since they hid here. She expected all possible disasters due to the destruction of the blue moon, but nothing happened. Thanks to the food, it was enough and nothing was missing. The guy repeated that she is a very good girl. She was good and attentive. The girl fed Lizzie, and the guy was happy to eat. Suddenly, he wanted to have a wife who will happily meet him at home and would remind him of night exercises every night. The Rai had to call him several times to get it out of thought. She thought something had happened to him and scared the boy. Ag explained embarrassed that he thought why he could not use magic in his world. Ray also thought. It was strange because magic from birth has all living things. It seemed unusual that magic does not exist by itself, even in another world. The girl suggested that their land could consist of dark matter. The guy again asked and explained that it is a substance that absorbs and destroys magic nearby. It is a rarity, but in her world it also happens. Ag thought it was some ore, but the description did not match what she used to. Dark matter has a lot, but is not defined in the usual ways. You understand that if it was on Earth, it would have explained why he couldn't use magic. However, he had no evidence of this. The guy stretched on a chair and realized that he was full. He thought that you could already go for a walk. He told the girl that he would walk with Li Zun, but the girl stopped him and said that she needed to know something. She decided to ask him for a relic. The guy did not understand why she needed it. The girl said that as his student, she was still weak, but with relics, it will become stronger. Ag cleared everything and asked how much hair it took to do so. Raya replied that it was not about it and decided to say directly. She wanted him to pass this relic from his mouth to his mouth. The guy was red and tried to understand whether he heard correctly. The girl opened her mouth in confusion and said that so much magic is more efficient. He can refuse. She doesn't want to kiss him. In his head, Ag shouted with joy. He said that if she wants it, he did not mind. The guy did not think that he would once be able to kiss such a beautiful girl. They were sitting on the bed and ashamed to look at each other. Ray took him by her shoulders and said she would start herself. When they reached for each other, Liz came between them. Rhea immediately rejected the snail so that he did not interfere. The girl turned to her lady. Finally, they kissed gently. Suddenly, the girl leaned on him and pushed Edgy on the bed. Edgy was surprised that she became a little stronger. Rhea moves away from his lips and says he is very tasty. It begins to feel the power grows inside. The girl was holding on the cheek. She still wanted. Edgy thought that human saliva acts as an aphrodisiac because Rio was strange. She suddenly jumped at him and asked her to satisfy her. The guy at first shouted at a surprise, but then he had gone away and decided not to resist. At this time, people in the capital of the kingdom of Miscard discussed who destroyed the blue moon. They assumed that the demons did it. Some said it directly and hoped that they were safe in the capital. The man stood by the window and looked at the missing month. He thought that the moon disappeared through the demons. Demons turned to him and called him a coven. He thought they learned something. The knight said they had many complaints about Kibai, because Wella sent everyone wherever it was time to do it. A girl who heard a conversation between two men came into the room. The knight wanted to say something, but Kazule broke him and asked if the scout detachment had already returned. The Rose turned to the captain of the night guard. She introduced herself again, said that from the 2nd Intelligence Detachment, and returned from the task. Kazuli was glad that Rosetta had finally returned. The man asked if there were results. She replied that the regalia was not found, but found something. Rosetta showed hair in a box. Kazul took this box and once again said it was hair. He also thought it was a relic. The man considered it strange, because it was not the way the hair was like others. It was full of magic. Rosa said she considers this thing not a millennial relic of mankind. She looked at her in surprise and thought that she believed in the survival. The girl did not want to hurry the events. The second possible reason for the destruction of the moon is the appearance of a person who has been able to survive. The man thought and remembered that, according to rumors, his family died because of his extraordinary power. It was very easy to destroy the moon for them. Rose again turned to the knight captain and asked for permission to continue the study of the ruins. Kazumul realized that it was through the river, and the girl confirmed it. Almost the whole first detachment died from the demons on the way to the forest, but they found no body or decks. They may be injured and are now hiding to recover. Kazu said they had more serious problems, but he understood that he would not convince her if she was getting tired of something. The whole reason is these two, especially Ria. He was most afraid to lose them. In the mind, the faces of two dear people came from him. Kazu said she gives her the moon, but she should focus on ruins. If she finds a person, he should immediately return with the report. The girl accepted the instructions and thanked him for the opportunity. Rose came to the door and mentally asked her sister to wait for her. She will find her at any cost. At this time, Eiji and Ria were still kissing in the shelter. The guy didn't know how much it would last. Raya all blushed with shame and quietly apologized to Eiji. She was very embarrassed, and then did not stay and kissed it for the first time. The guy told me not to worry about it. They kissed for 10 minutes and then fainted again. It seems that human liquids act as an aphrodisiac on other races. The guy realized that if he supports it and further, it would be difficult for him to stay. He decided to tell the girl what was going for a walk. Ria Shili wished him to protect herself. Yeji left home and apologized to Lizan, saying that he was now free. A stranger without clothes stood at the exit. A butterfly sat on her hand. He could not understand who she was and where he lost her clothes. Suddenly, the little girl ran to Jiaji and hugged him. The guy heard a familiar sound and realized that Lizan agreed with him. Eiji tried to understand how it happened. Suddenly, Ria turned to the boy. She did not understand what he was doing with this girl without clothes. Her gaze became wild, and a fiery ball flew out of her hand. The guy felt tired, but after a while the girl walked barefoot on the ground. Ray prepared some clothes for Lisa. Ray was surprised because he knew that monsters rarely take the human form when they become stronger. She has heard of such cases, but it happens infrequently. The girl decided that it happened because of his great power. Eiji thought that Lizan was a girl. Raya said it was not quite true, and the guy was surprised. Lizan lifted her skirt and smiled shyly. The guy was surprised when he realized that Lisan was a ladder. At the same time, Eiji began to beat his fist on the wall because his face was his type, but it was not his action. Raya said she meant completely different. Because snails multiply in half, the concept of gender is not suitable. Eiji finally realized that the snails had no sex. She seems to be instinctively realized that they would like this look more. Yeji stroked the girl on her head and called her a chanterelle. Suddenly, the guy decided to find out how she was feeling and whether something changed. The girl confirmed this because she absorbed a lot of his relics. Her magical power has increased at times, and that is all thanks to it. But she believed that he should not talk about the growth of other indicators. He only said that he had not to thank him. Ray felt that her hearing and vision became better. Now she will notice the invasion even faster. Yagi noticed that she had improved magical and physical abilities and thought he would also want to feel it. Suddenly the guy wondered how strong he was. The servant returned to the owner and said that uninvited guests had come quickly. Someone walked the path, and Eiji heard the same steps. The stranger was alone. It was a man. Ray felt it. The guy was interested in the power of the enemy. She replied to him that he was weak and not worth mention. Raya got a weapon and said that after he learned the place of their hiding place, they could not let him go alive. The girl was very angry because she considered him a fool who dared to invade their sanctuary. She wanted to make him feel guilty. Eiji tried to stop the girl, but she began to spin her weapon. It turned out that the guy wanted to deal with him, to feel his strength. Eiji knew that he could destroy the enemy, but he was still going to do it. Raya sighed and said she understands him. But he promised her to take care of herself. The girl was holding the blade for her shoulders because she was in a hurry for the teacher. The man was decisive and said he understood her request. The guy thought of the opponent. He had to be strong, so he hoped to cope. A silhouette appeared around the corner. Suddenly there was a leg that slid on the ground. The man held a sword in his hand and started talking. He confirmed rumors that he lives in this cave. The stranger ordered to leave all the valuable things and leave here. At least he can survive. At this time, the man aimed a sword directly into his face. Edgy did not understand why this rival seemed so strong. He realized that he was his home, and Rhea and Listen were here. He realized that he could not accept these requirements. The man said he did not want to attack and destroy it. As a result, he swung his sword. The sword flashed near the body of Johi. The man immediately began to respond to the opposite direction. Johi fell to the ground. There was a lot of fear on his face. He looked at the attacker and realized that he should retreat. The swords were too dangerous for him. He could not fight the sword with the sword. The man laughed and wondered how long he would run. Yogi tried to escape, but realized that he had to be answered. He did not know how, because the use of magic could undermine all shelters. Yogi looked around. Suddenly, a crack appeared between the boys that hit the attacker in the face. The man with a knife did not understand what had happened. Slum appeared on the ground, and Eiji was surprised to see her. It turned out that when the mucus is bubble, Lizun should appear. So it happened, and Eiji was glad. Yeji sat next to the girl and thanked her for the salvation. At that moment, the boy's replica was heard behind their backs. Rhea asked if everything was fine. The girl stood in front of a boy and a girl. Eiji said that he was all right thanks to healing. The man noticed the mucous membrane in human form and the elves, which were also beautiful. The guy was silent. The man thought how many servants would be given on the market. But then he decided that it was better to take them to some noble master immediately. She said he was selfish and wanted to make Ray and Lizzie with his servants. The guy immediately rushed at the man and shouted that he would not allow it. Eiji pushed a grate in her chest. He looked in surprise at his arm. The man flew from shelter at high speed. He hit his back on the stone opposite and shouted loudly in pain. Blood splashed from his mouth a fountain, and he fell to the ground, completely immobilized. Jeje ran out of the cave to make sure of victory. Another call came behind, and he looked around. Ray rushed to the boy, hugged him firmly, and thanked for the protection. But the guy in his thoughts imagined Ray without clothes. He came out of his thoughts when the lizard jumped on his back and hugged him. He stood and glad to embrace his girls. At this time, Ray praised the owner, saying that he was incredible. The guy lifted his head and said that the fight was worth it. But he decided to turn to Ray to do something for him. The girl applied treatment to the attacker. She said that everything was fine with him and he would soon come to her senses. Behind her lay an unconscious attacker who was tied. But Raya said that he was too good, and it is not necessary to ask her to treat some thief. Yatse explained that he did not want him to disappear because he may have useful information. Suddenly, the attacker woke up and said that he was no longer as cool as before. He could not imagine that he would ever lose such a weak guy like Jeji. At that moment, Ray was very angry and did not understand how he could talk to her master. The Liz on the girl's head was also indignant, but she asked everyone to calm down. Their goal was to gather information, and that is what he did. He wanted to know what this thief wants and why he is here. He lowered his eyes with annoyance. He said his sister became ill, and tears appeared in his eyes. The man explained that money was needed for medicine. Their village is barely surviving, and the sister may not survive tomorrow. Eiji realized why he was doing so. She wanted to ask Ri if he could cure his sister with magic. She apologized and said that it could easily treat wounds, but disease is quite different. The guy was upset and thought he was still lucky. Rhea said there was only one way. He immediately wanted to find out what. The girl reminded him of the relics. With their magical power, you can cure any disease. The guy was surprised to forget about it. However, Rhea said that she still didn't advise to do so. They had to hide. If he easily gave the relic, she was afraid that they could be exposed. She realized that she was right, and they were not ready yet, so it is risky. But the guy apologized to the girl and said he wanted to save his sister. In his world, he wanted someone to need it. If he could save the disappeared person, he did not stay away. Ria calmly said that everything was clear. She simply makes sure that the news does not break. Ag thanked her and Liz and then cut the rope. The guy pulled out the hair and stretched out her husband, saying that it was for him. The man was amazed because the magical power broke out of him. Ag said to give it to his sister, and he thought it would cure her. Therefore, he asked the guy to stop robbery. He began to wipe tears out of his eyes, apologized, and felt guilty. Finally, the thief introduced himself. He was called Ada. He was from the people of bears who live in the forest. Adai promised to thank them for his kindness. The first battle for the protection of the shelter ended with their victory. The next day, the cube ran with a box, waved his hand, and greeted. He reported that his sister was better. The guy thanked and asked to accept his gifts. He sincerely thanked because you helped them. In the drawer lay a bag of peas, a box with tomatoes, and jars with another bag. By the way, the bear became their ally. Edgy gave them their fur, and they exchanged it for food. His hair could be used instead of magical stones. It is very important in this world. The lamps in their shelter also worked on their hair. Recently, the price of stones has increased greatly. Because of this, the village of Adaya was impoverished. As a result, he began the criminal path. The solution of the problem was the hair of it. He liked it because he helped others. Adai was happy and felt the whole sea of magic in one hair. But the guy also regretted Ray, who only watched the distribution of his hair. She has not tried this yet, so she envied the bones, which she received every time. Johi returned to Ria and wondered if she was convinced that the information had not leaked. He saw yesterday she went with a cube to his village, so the bear immediately faded. He said he was already late and should quickly check if everything is well with his sister. Then he quickly ran towards his village. Ray said not to worry because she laid a curse on all residents. It will force them to keep a promise, so there will be no problems. The girls looked at the tomatoes that he brought to them. You understand that Ria should not be upset. It will be his promise. At this time, Rose was still looking for her sister. Ria asked the master to allow them to place traps. Edgy asked again. She replied that thanks to his efforts, they managed to repel attacks without serious problems. However, they do not know what enemies can appear further. Edgy proposed to install underwater traps. Raya said it was a very good idea and decided to cook them right away. The girl began to use the magic of the earthly blow. A circle appeared in the place of spell. It surprised Eiji because the pit was shallow. Ray apologized because the soil was very solid. But the guy understood everything, because even if magic does not help, the earth is very firm. He thought that you would do nothing more. Ria suggested that something poisonous there. Eiji considered it too cruel. He said everything went too far, so they should stop and just go for a walk. The girl agreed with him shyly, but he did not understand why she looked as if everything around her had disappeared. Suddenly someone said, "Listen, graze the jacket of Jedi." The guy realized that the girl wanted to help them. She agreed. The slime ran into his hand, and a few drops of the slim fell to the ground. New little slim began to form from drops. At the same time, several balls of mucus flew into the sky. She opened her mouth in surprise. They became even more. Ray calmly explained that it was cell division. She heard that the mucous membranes can multiply by dividing into several parts if they get enough magic in the body. Thanks to the magic of Johi, she was able to reach this condition. The guy said the little slims behaved as if they were licking children. Ray was angry and fell around because she thought that he had already had children for her. She looked at him. Ray carefully asked him to have children with her. She said she would share their cells and will have many children. Eiji shouted her to calm down. But the girl continued to say that they would just mole and explode in her hands like an explosive ball. The guy still tried to reassure her, but realized that she did not listen to him. He had no choice, so he apologized before the river and kissed it. The girl immediately blushed. Their lips opened, and Ray exhaled and returned to the master because she did not want him to stop. They continued to kiss, both blushed. The girl has tears in the eyes. She suddenly screamed with pleasure and fainted, falling into the arms of Eiji. It was very surprised by the guy. Instead of reassuring her, he only annoyed her again. The guy lifted her in his arms and asked the younger to watch the entrance. The girl agreed. He told her, "If you see strangers, try only to neutralize them, but do not destroy how Ray did." The food put the girl on the bed. He was a little worried about her condition. He mentioned that Rhea often goes all the boundaries when it comes to it. He looked at her and realized that she was trying very hard for him, and it was cute. The girl was unconscious, and the boy looked at her with a slight sadness. He wondered why she was so stretching to him. He mentioned some of the moments he spent her. But a loud cry came from the street that surprised Edgy. He did not understand what it was. It was definitely not a doctor's voice. So uninvited guests appeared. The guy looked out of the corner. Suddenly he saw something. It was a girl. Her legs protruded from the hole, and she was shot by mucus. The girl did not understand what was happening, but Eiji realized he was right. Rosie was said that everything around was very sticky and that it was too much. Because of this, she could not move. She began to make different sounds again. The children mocked it differently, forcing it to feel disgusting. Eiji was surprised that the underwater traps did not work. The guy wanted to add something, but something else was distracted. The rose had large breasts. The guy thought they could be even larger than breasts. The girl at this moment was glad that she could finally be released. Then Rosetta saw that Eiji was peeking. She called him arrogant and did not understand what he was looking at. The guy realized that he had noticed him and said he didn't look at anything. Liz looked at the Eiji with a question. At the same time, one of the little slims threw out the bra rose. The girl remained only in the tights. She immediately screamed and began to cover up where her things were. Eiji praised the girl for getting rid of Rosette, but overtaken. The guy apologized and wanted to make sure everything was fine. The girl in tears showed him a finger and did not understand why he had not yet saved her. Yeji held his lost clothes and thought that her behavior was strange but important. Someone called him. She saw how he was holding his lingerie and did not understand why he was here. Suddenly the Rai called, contacting her sister. Rosetta sat completely wet but happy. Rhea was surprised by her appearance. They finally met. Rose met with her sister after a long separation. Her eyes were filled with tears of joy. Rosetta sat and rejoiced that she saw her sister. She knew that Rhea was alive. She cried with happiness. Raya returned to her sister and asked her to dress. At this time, the lizard closed her eyes. Ray introduced her sister and said that they were almost the same age, but Rose was 2 years earlier. Leeson put the younger ones in a row, and Eiji realized that she was the oldest of the Ray's sisters. Rosetta said they should go back to the capital together. Many have been saying that someone has destroyed a month. She shuddered when she heard about the moon, and as Rosetta needed the help of Raya to stop chaos. He was calm because he thought that nothing had happened after that event, but it caused panic. Suddenly, Rhea interrupted Rose and said she swore allegiance to Eiji, man, and would not return to the capital. She asked again because she did not believe that Newman was a man. It did not feel energy from him. Raya said that Eiji was actually a man. His magical energy is so strong that an ordinary person does not feel it. The guy decided to quietly ask the girl because he did not know who Newman was. She explained that it was a race of people with very concentrated human blood. They do not have much magic, but very similar to real people. Their distinctive feature is round ears. Hertzi thought that when he saw him for the first time, someone could decide that he was Newman. It seemed convenient to conceal the individual. Rose hoped that they did not expect she would believe without evidence. She pointed to the boy and asked to prove that he was a person. She suggested giving her a strand of his hair, but Ray decided it was too much. Even a strand of hair can contain magic. Suddenly, the girl suggested that he put her finger in her mouth if he did not mind. It was very surprised by the guy. He was afraid that she would be angry. Rhea said that all is well, and she always listens to her. Because it was the idea of Ryus, she thought Rose would not mind. Yagi looked at his fingers and wanted to finish faster. Rosetta said that even closely he looked like. She did not understand how such a guy could like her sister. It seemed strange to her that he was calling himself a person. The guy realized she would not stop. Eiji sat down and asked the lizard to tell the younger to grab her. The lizard agreed and ordered the younger to do so. The slims immediately wrapped the girl. Rosetta did not understand what it was. The man said it was the evidence she asked for and reached out to her. He moved his fingers into his mouth. The girl's eyes were wide open because she felt the flow of magical energy. She didn't understand that it was. She thought the sweat on his hands helped. The girl now licked his fingers. The guy started the ward lower back, but he did not take his hand from the girl. Ray returned to the master and said that it was enough. He became embarrassed and agreed. He hoped that she did not notice his obscene thoughts. The Rose was sad and realized what was happening, so she had no choice except to believe them. The girl said she feels strange and strong energy from his fingers. Rhea decided to ask her sister how to do. She said she was ordered to report immediately if she found that man. However, its loyalty belongs not to the country, but a sister. She, of course, will help them both. Yaji said it was really good, but not sure whether she is sure of her motives. So she betrays her country. Rosetta said he was boldly, because only her sister is allowed to turn to her. The guy apologized and discouraged. Ray turned to the master. She said they needed supplies and information. She believed that it was better if sent to the capital, so it will become their spy. She also wanted to make sure that Rosetta would handle. She told her to leave it on her. She added that her dear Rose exists only to devote her body and soul to her. Ray once said it seriously. She said that if she learned what happened to the Dex, she would have to inform him because she didn't even imagine what he was doing. But he believed that this old man now is the main threat to them. The old man knows his real person and possesses the power of a relic. Ray decided to add a few words of the warning. Rosie to keep an eye on how she turns to her landlady. Otherwise, it can accidentally destroy it. Her words were scared by Jeji. Rosetta was fond of her strong, formidable aura and called her sister Beauty. The guy thought she was strange. He asked her not to worry about him. Rhea said that if he said it would not worry. Rhea also had their oddities, so he was not surprised that there are many such weirdos among the knights. The Dex was sitting on the floor near the stone wall and did not understand why it happened to him. The cat was racing his fur because he needed more relics. The stranger said it was disgusting, because the one who was called the Divine Blade so strongly fell in his eyes. The Dex did not understand who was here. The unfamiliar man was called Brace. He said he was an ordinary demon. He also added that you do not need to wave the sword. He wants to agree on peace. The Dex felt the power from the vial. It was similar to the power of the Orlic. Grace said they were demons who have long been looking for people. They learned to make illegal substances with the same effect as relics. The Dex already wanted to feel this taste again. The cat is crazy and demands to give them to him. He pokes the demon dagger. The demon says that it can be given, but in exchange it is necessary to destroy a person named Eji. Raya was on the knees of Eji, and the guy is absent. He returned to her and said he was enough. Liz watched them with interest. The girl did not expect such a reaction from the boy. She embarrassed and departed from him to the other side of the room. She was embarrassed because of this situation. He asked her not to make such a face because she did not want to get worse again. She will have to get used to gradually. The RO was very upset, but agreed. Jaji has long been in this world. To strengthen Rhea, they kiss every morning. Rhea was upset because she wanted more kisses. She was supported by Jeshi. Rhea said Eiji that his liquids are very tasty, and she was used to them. She really wants to kiss him. Eiji suddenly said that it is not necessary to translate it in other words. Eiji was surprised by the words of Rias. Conversations about the fluid of the body were embarrassed. In his fantasies, the guy thought that the girl liked his bodily discharge. Suddenly, he was ashamed of such thoughts. Adai approached the cave and called Eiji, but he was stopped by the younger lizard. He asked if the guy was here. Eiji replied to his call, making it clear that he was here. Jessa asked the guy what he needed and whether he still needed his hair. The guy replied that the hair was not needed. He wanted advice. Gitsi was surprised. The guy said that his younger sister was very strange. The guy explained that his sister was excited and inattentive. She never bothered him so. Let me say that I am glad to recover thanks to them, but still worried when she is. Rhea thought about it when he heard the conversation. Rhea said it could be due to side effects. One day a year, she looked at her with anxiety and doubt. The girl said she heard, in the relics, a substance may be forbidden. She said that if a person swallowed the relic and could no longer consume it, the body is stressed. This can even lead to death. Givyu very scared when he heard it. He could not believe that his sister was so dangerous. Eiji tried to reassure the guy. Eiji thought, if his relics are so dangerous, then Rhea may be sick. He said that in any case it was necessary to check it. The boys came to the bear village. Eiji said she was quite lively here. People in the village were friendly and friendly. The cube said it was thanks to Eiji. The guy was very surprised. Adai said that adding Eiji's hair to fertilizers is a good idea. Their special apples and tomatoes have become delicious. A well-known restaurant in the capital makes many orders. Eiji thought what strange hair he had. Who would have thought that the hair of Ijiya would help develop the village so? Suddenly, a cube throw, they arrived. There was a big, beautiful house in front of the boys. One of them said that despite the appearance, he is still the head of the village. The boys were surprised. He behaved as a bandit, but was the head of the village. A girl ran out of the house, turned to Daya and said that he was late, asking where he was all this time. Eiji looked at her, surprised, and said she was sweet. Give the sister, and she tried to escape. The guy said to look at his sister and ask if she was not sweet. Sister Adai asked who these people were, and reminded that she asked not to bring anyone to the village. The guy told her sister that they were no one, and presented her to the eggs who saved her. The girl was surprised. The girl shouted suddenly. She fell to her knees, began to thank Eiji for salvation, and apologized for her rudeness. The guy told her not to worry. The girl said Edzin was very good. She asked to look at these rags, and wait a minute. In a moment the girl returned in a beautiful dress. The cube was surprised. He asked her whether she did not hide these things, and said she would only wear them with a boy. She asked her brother that she was strange conversations, and said she was her ordinary clothes. The girl returned to Eiji and said that they were offered almost nothing. She asked them to feel at home and reported to cook dinner. Eiji contacted Adaya and said he realized why he was so worried. Adai was confused and concerned. He thought it all through Relic. Soon the table was covered with delicious food. The boys were very surprised. The girl said she used all her skills for cooking. She offered to taste a piece. Yeti tried one of the dishes. The boy really liked it. He said it was very tasty. Yeti said she would become a very good wife one day. Murea was very surprised and embarrassed. Adai said she was too early to do it. She replied to him to be silent. The girl asked if she liked Ri and Liz's food. They said everything was delicious. Ria even wanted to find out the recipe. Jaggi seemed to get along well, girls. He thought that Raya met with Maria before their arrival. Obviously, she cursed the villagers, and they can't talk about it. He is wondering what she did. Eiji turned into a cube. Eastam if Ria was here before. Suddenly he dropped a spoon out of his hands. The guy apologized and said he was feeling a little bad. It was also interesting and scary. He stated that he would go to his room and wished delicious. Mary looked at her brother with a question. Ria did not understand what had happened and asked about it. Eiji said he didn't know, but wanted to find out what Rias did. Raya said she would go stroll through the village to check the action of her curse. Eiji said that it is dark outside, so be careful. Raya asked if she would go with her. She climbed the stairs and decided that if she asked the diet, it is necessary to check Mary now. The man approached the door and knocked. He asked if you could log in. Miri opened the door and dropped the edgy. The girl in the room was very cozy and beautiful. Mireya apologized for her clothes on a chair and asked him to sit on the bed. The guy thanked and sat down. Suddenly he noticed that the room smells delicious. He wondered and realized that he was first in a teenager girl's room. At the same time, she looked at Mary and was very worried. The guy decided to find out what happened to the girl. He asked what happened and whether everything was fine with her. Maria returned to Yaga and said she loved him. The guy looked at the girl with a question in the look, and she was waiting for his answer. Yagi could not believe that it was a real confession. Maria said she loves Eiji. The guy returned to the girl inconveniently. Maria said that when she thinks of him, her heart beats very much, as if she were not herself. She knows that her brother worries for her, but she can't help. Eiji thought he tried to justify the girl's words. In the end, he realized that it was love. The guy said that Morsla was strange because she fell in love. He was sad that he had not noticed it before, because he had no lovers. Eiji tried to understand her feelings. Mireia said she wanted to become a designer of clothing in the capital. She spent her hands on her things. The guy was surprised that all this was done by a little girl. She confirmed and said that her works are very popular, so they are quickly bought on the capital bazaars. Yeji thought it was amazing. Mireia was not confident in her knowledge in fascinating clothes. The girl wanted to ask if he knew that almost all their clothes were created by people, so she asked again for confidence. The girl always respected those who help others. She treated people such as gods. When she learned that her husband had cured her illness, she decided that it was fate. Now that she met him, she was convinced that she really loved him. The guy was red with this confession. Eiji wanted to say something to the girl, but she interrupted him. She said it does not mean that she made him answer her the same. She knew that he already had Rei. She also realized that not his type. The guy assured that it was not. He thought that he was technically not in relationships. Miria said that if it suits it, in this case, she is ready to become his mistress and serve him when he wants it. She lifted her skirt. The guy closed his eyes, trying to stop the girl, but she continued to take off her clothes. At the end, the girl stood in front of him in his underwear. The guy didn't understand what was happening. He thought that although not an expert, the girl's linen was very similar to Japanese. If you think so, who thought of sewing the ribbons to the linen? Yeji decided to get rid of and return to reality. Mireia was already on his knees and corrected his clothes. She returned to the guy, but if he does not want to say no without fear. Mireia reached for his lips and finally kissed Eiji. Her tail suddenly got up. She continued to kiss with a boyfriend. Having removed from his lips, she exhaled loudly. She felt excitement throughout the body. She was surprised by his power and finally realized who really was. The guy realized that the artifact began to act as an aphrodisiac. The girl lifted the top of the linen and turned to Eiji. She made a sign to start and asked to touch it. Mireia kissed him again. Her eyes opened wide. She screamed loudly with pleasure and began to grow saliva from her mouth. She was amazed at what was happening and did not know what to do. The girl fainted. The guy covered her with a blanket, and she was ashamed of everything that had happened. Mireia wept because she could not please him even in bed. Eiji said Ria not to be upset because the ordinary girl can withstand a minute and Ria about 10. Mireia looked sad. The guy decided that she just wanted to thank for treatment. Suddenly he remembered something. He asked her to sew her clothes for them. Miria quickly got out of bed and immediately agreed. She said it would be the happiest if she would need her skill. Nothing else will make her happier. Eiji wanted to know what to do in exchange for clothes. She realized that even if she wanted to thank, he should give her something for tailoring for them. The network cunningly appealed and suggested that the guy look. The guy turned in surprise, and at that moment the girl kissed him again. Eiji blushed with surprise. As a reward, Mireia wanted to kiss him several times. The girl covered her mouth with her finger. The next day, Leeson came in a new outfit. Eiji said she was very much in her. She realized again that she had made Mireia for them. The girl thought they had to thank her somehow. The guy immediately said that he should not worry, because he thought about it. Meanwhile, Mario sewed new clothing, and her brother noticed that she was strangely behaving strangely. Suddenly something exploded. Eiji closed his face with his hands, defending himself from bright light. He did not understand what had happened and why it suddenly became dark. The guy suddenly realized that he was sitting right in front of Rei. She stands in front of him and raises his skirt. He bounced back and apologized to the girl, saying that it happened by accident. Rayas replied that everything was fine, it was an accident. The cavity did not understand how it happened to him. He mentioned that by order of the lizard, they began to dig the ground around the shelter. It was at this point that bright light appeared. The guy looked around and asked the girls how they were here. Rei said that he probably hit the teleporting ionic device that was underground. The grill decided they were under shelter, but she was surprised. He asked why something like this is underground. The guy touched the wall and said that he was made as modern civilization could not. He then asked if this was the wall. Ray agreed with this and noticed that this place was similar to the ruins in which he found himself when he was summoned. Once upon a time, people probably lived. The girl told the boy not to dig so deeply because underground things may be similar. Eiji asked Inri whether her grandfather told her something about this place. The girl replied that she had never heard anything like him. The guy said he had a reason to keep it secret. Leeson suddenly was scared, looking at something. She said there could be something dangerous here. There was a huge hallam behind the boys. They turned, saw him, and were very scared. The ghoul began to noise strangely and said he found strangers. Suddenly, the monster stated that he was turning into combat regime. Now, Gatsa realized why Grandpa Raya did not tell her a place, but he still did not understand what the object was, though he heard threatening sounds. The preparation for battle was completed. The violators were intercepted. The big stone guard encroached on the boys, but they managed to evade. Ria realized that it was a ghoul. Eiji also recognized him and asked again. The golems are a weapon created by people. They say that they are so strong that they can destroy the whole country, and no one is able to win them. The girl and the boy were running away from his attacks. They got here thanks to his human abilities. If this ghoul is created by humans, when he faces a person, it becomes powerless. Eiji felt there was no chance. Suddenly, Raya asked the master to stay. A ball appeared in her hand and she used her explosive ball again. The bullets were already flying directly into the golem, but he defended himself with his barrier. Raya could not believe that it was an Antaganda shield. The man repeated the question. The girl explained that this is one of the techniques used by people. This is a device that completely blocks magic. She never thought the golem would have a cloak. You did not understand everything yet, but now the golem seemed even more dangerous. Magic no longer acted on him. He did not understand what to do with ancient human instruments, but the ghoul was already going to attack. The boys noticed it, and Ray decided to use the icy shield. After a strong stroke of Gallum, cracks appeared on the shield. At the command post reported the detection of the obstacle. He then decided to neutralize the protection. His hand became a drill and began to drill a shield. Eiji realized that she could not stand for a long time. Suddenly he noticed something. It was an emergency shutdown button. He was not sure that he read right, but realized that it was their chance. The ghoul noticed that the opponent ran out of shelter. The stone guard switched to Jiaji. Ria immediately shouted to the master. Dust rose in the air. From the dust appeared a guy who kept part of the golem and shouted to take him away. Eds presses the button, which surprises Ray, and listens. Ghoul is switched off and says the signal of human life is confirmed. You can now start turning off the combat mode. The guy immediately exhaled and said strangely that they were saved. He got off the golem. Ria and Lezen quickly ran to him and hugged him. The system then reported that it was called by a new master. Everyone looked around in surprise. From where the girl began to appear, she looked like a doll and seemed to be turning. A girl with short black hair bowed to a boy. She thanked him for awakening her. The guy looked at her actions in surprise. Stuttering, he called her Hallam. His companion was dissatisfied with the fact that a stranger paid attention to the boy. The guy looked at a girl with short black hair. The ghoul turned into a girl. He couldn't believe it. A girl with black hair introduced. She was called Kazumi. She was one of the golets. Its task is to protect the first floor of hot springs. The guy and his friends, including the snail and the body of the Ellen, were surprised. They first heard about hot springs. After a while, they shouted loudly from surprise. Kazumi showed them a place with hot springs. There were hot springs under the ruins. The floor was made so that Mr. Casey could swim here. Hearing about Casey, the guy wanted to ask Golem about the unknown. Therefore, he turned to Kazum. Kazumi explained that Casey had created her for her. She was called a brilliant inventor, but she did not like people. To overcome boredom, she created an underground complex. They were created to protect this place. The guy realized that the inventor was introvert. The guy learned about the case and asked the girl about other golets. They were actually nearby. Kazumi knew that there were 4 more golets here, which were her sisters. Each of them guarded one floor of the underground structure. To get on, it was necessary to defeat them. The guy felt strange after this news, but he was glad that there were hot springs. They can only swim, nothing more. The girl wanted to learn how to maintain a constant water temperature. She asked about it in Golem. Kazumi raised the mucus monster. All the cars here worked on the magic he received from the human body. If the owner was near the floor of hot springs, the equipment worked properly. The guy is already used to living in this world and knows what to do. He decided to stop thinking deeply. He was comfortable to live that way. The guy inspected the floor and decided to make this place with his base. Here you could live and rest. The repository was temporary above, so he wanted to stay here. To live alone, they needed strength to resist other countries. The girl knew that one day they would have to leave the shelter. He believed that the found place was very protected. The heads created by humans were very strong, to attract one golem faster than gather 100 allies. But the guy did not want to fulfill his partner's desire. So far, he wanted to leave everything as he is. The girl, who is an elf, understood his fear and anxiety about golets. She changed the topic and suggested to move their things here. Kazumi learned that she wanted to go out and showed her the way up. Slime was comfortable with the handrails. The guy was glad that Ria agreed to stay here. He doubted that they could find a different place with such hot sources. He liked his present life. This calm and relaxed lifestyle will not disappear from it so simply. Soon they brought all their things into the room. After a while, the guy placed furniture and other small things into his place. It's time to go to hot springs. The guy was happy to swim in a large pool with thermal water. After bathing in the sources of Kazumi, she made him a massage. He lay in bliss while the girl touched his body. He liked how Golem was massaged. After her touches, the muscles relaxed. He considered the girl a true master of Thai massage. Through this massage, he wanted it to end. Kazumi massage technique was a great and best in the world for this guy. The girl was not surprised by her skill. 80% of its body consists of massage functions. The golem, created by her mistress Casey, conduct their own examination. The guy enjoyed the massage but was surprised. The girl was very strong, although only 20% of her functions are intended for battle. However, she denied his words. With the remaining 20%, the majority was responsible for communicating with combat modules, which was only 2%. The guy realized that it was better not to climb other floors. During water treatments, he wanted coffee with milk. Kazumi agreed and asked to wait a little. The guy was confused. Turning his head, he saw that the girl had brought him a drink in a jar. For Kazumi, people were strange creatures. Her mistress Casey also asked for milk coffee after a bath. The guy was surprised that this drink exists in this world. He immediately opened a closed jar with interest. After that, a disgusting and unpleasant odor came out of the jar. I quickly closed my nose because of the horrible smell. Milk was already spoiled, so it smelled so badly. Kazumi also covered her nose because of the unpleasant smell. She apologized to the boy because the milk coffee was stored for 10,000 years. The guy was surprised that the bank remained whole after so many years. After that, the guy wanted to swim again in hot springs to freshen up. There were many pools in this place, so he decided to try everyone: electric, dairy, and jacuzzi. The guy turned and saw behind himself a man. It was Ria. The girl, wrapped in one towel, looked shyly at her master. The guy saw a girl only in a towel that barely covered her body. He looked at her with a lost surprise. With his eyes wide open, he said rich, that they had agreed to swim in turn because the bath was common. The girl shyly replied that she just thought of her duty of the servant to rub his back to the owner. She worried and lowered her eyes to the floor. The guy did not want her to miss, so he agreed to her offer. He decided to accept her help. He couldn't do anything, so just happened. This is only part of the girl's responsibilities. There was no other sense in this. The guy, and so newest, because of the girl's presence. But he couldn't stop thinking about it. The girl who helped him was very attracted to him. Eiji was not sure whether the girl could take away. As she tried to pour him with water from her shower, the guy looked in the mirror. He saw a reflection of Ria in the mirror. This was noticed by the girl herself. She immediately returned to the boy with her back and covered with her hands. Ria did not understand what he was looking at. The girl thought that the guy paid attention to her because her body was ugly. But Ag denied her humiliating words. He told her that, on the contrary, her shapes were very attractive. In the soul, these words caused disgusting and shame. Raya rejoiced in the boy's words. She thanked him for his compliment. The girl did not expect her to praise her for such ugly body proportions. In this world, the small proportions of the body were most appreciated. Large sizes seemed to all a sign of stupidity, obscene, and negligence. The guy realized that in another world, beauty standards are different from his world. He was indifferent. He was at the club of large forming lovers. Ray was surprised that the guy belongs to an unknown group that admires large bodies. The girl seemed to be a very good man. Therefore, she is surprised that he is in such a group. She tried to find out if his words were a joke or he just wanted to comfort her. After all, he had a prominent literary talent. Upon learning that he was a member of such a club, the girl was happy. For her, she was honored to get acquainted with him. Eiji was surprised that the great faction was so unpopular in this world. He did not know how to prove a girl that he really likes her appearance. The girl asked not to look at her until she allowed. Eiji agreed and turned away from the girl. Ray was embarrassed and got a bottle of gel. The guy felt a pleasant aroma nearby. Ray asked Ross to order this body gel. It could only be obtained in the capital. The girl knocked the gel into the foam. She told the guy that it was the beginning of her duty. At this point, the sound came as a towel fell. The girl without clothes touched the boy's body. She spread herself with a foamy gel created. The guy shuddered at her sudden touch. The girl tried to grate the foam of Edgy's back with her body. The same man was amazed at her actions and very embarrassed. He looked at her with panic. The girl immediately swore and bored through his behavior. She decided that the boy was uncomfortable because of her. She said with a sad face that she thought Tom was happy. After all, he told her that he likes her great figure. Raya has not yet departed from the boy, so he felt her touch. Herza was satisfied and rejoiced in this. The girl noticed his happy facial expression. She noticed how he reacts to the touch of her body. The guy was very surprised. However, Rhea did not pay attention to his embarrassment. She rejoiced that her master likes her large forms. The girl hugged Johi with joy. The girl shone with happiness. Therefore, the guy no longer felt embarrassment near her and took all her actions. After Ray was spreading the boy with a gel, she asked Yachifra if he could rub his breasts. He rejoiced and was surprised by such a request. The girl did not hear consent and upset, thinking that she did not like her body. Because of her sadness, the guy had to agree. But if a girl begins to wash his front, he will probably not be able to hold back the reaction of her body to her good appearance. From this thought, the guy began to imagine how to enjoy the time with the elf girl. He felt that then they would cross the border for which they would not return. She was still worried about the girl, whether she would be fine after that. He was also worried that Rhea did not really love him. He was confident in her respect because he was the only one who remained on this planet. He knew that she loved him only because he was a man. The man was not sure whether he likes her as a person. Edgy did not have time to answer her request. Suddenly in the bath shouted Slim. A little girl appeared in the room. She was swollen. The Slim became uncomfortable. The guy approached the Slim and looked at her with excitement. Her strange appearance was alarmed by Edgy. She did not understand what had happened. The girl became ill. Her nausea intensified and she spoke. The guy only had time to bounce off mucus. The girl got rid of water. It turned out that she drank too much water in the bathroom where he bathed. Yoji remembered how he drank water from the river before the snail appeared. She felt his human power and approached him. Ray lifted the Slim and carried it to her room. I had to help the girl. The guy thanked her for his help. The girl, holding the Slim, has not yet recovered after what happened. She was ashamed of her actions, and she went to her room with a red face. When Riel went with the Slim, the guy returned to the pool and stayed there alone. She noticed that her face was red. In the end, he himself realized that he could not do it with a girl. The guy felt both frustration and relief. He mentally joked that because of his insecurity would always be alone. While others were resting in hot springs, there was a trouble in the forest. The monster was attacked by the girl once after. Her enemy asked where the magic was from and heard that she was getting from her body. He realized that this magic is the same as that of a man. A girl with long black hair couldn't answer his question. She breathed heavily and tried to recover after his attacks. The monster was angry, even when he did not hear the answer. Rose was in great danger. Rhea, Slimy, and Edgy went outside. The weather was good. The three of them enjoyed the walk. Suddenly the guy heard a quiet sigh. He looked around, but saw only bushes with thick green leaves. Together with Ray, they pushed their hands, which hindered. It was Rosetta. A girl with long black hair was in a serious condition after the monster attack. He was worried about all right with her. Rosetta woke up, seeing him, and called him quietly. After the girl called her mistress Edgy, she was injured. Because of this, she touched her wound again. The guy couldn't do anything, so Raya approached Rosetta, put her on her knees, and started helping. The girl used therapeutic magic to heal the wounds of Rose. The most serious wound disappeared, leaving only a scar. Rosetta hugged Ray firmly and thanked her for the salvation. The girl rubbed her face on the body of the Elfian. She only patted Rise on the cheek, stopping her obscene actions. Rosetta told them to go. Dex is the name of this monster. He will come here soon. Everyone was upset by learning about the appearance of Dex. The one was surprised by this news. He knew who this monster was. Yet he realized that he was in an unpleasant situation. Rosetta said she met Dex in the village of Markov. She was 10 meters from here. The monster seeks the magical power of people. He will find them soon. The guy was surprised by the words of Rosette. The Dex sought the power of people. He did not understand why this man wanted his strength. Rhea distracted him from thought. She called Agi, who was conceived. The bear village was threatened with danger. Their village is updated through the magic of Agi's hair. It was likely that the Dex would attack her. Agi and Rhea ran straight to the village. The guy hoped that the village would survive and familiar peasants would remain intact. When they came to the place where the village was, they saw a flame that covered all the houses. The guy was breathing hard after running and looking at fire and horror. Suddenly someone called him. It was a peasant named Ada. Agi knew him. Adai looked confused and only sobbed with grief. Agi came up to find out about his condition. The guy with tears said that everything was well with him. However, the measures were stolen. Audi tears did not stop leaking. The guy felt great pain due to the loss of his village. A large and strong beast in the form of a cat attacked them. She realized that it was a Dex. Maria took over the most human forces. Therefore, the Dex stole it. It was uninvited for the guy. The guy merged that the Dex has offended many innocent people. He blindfolded his fists from anger. Ryan noticed the boy's condition. Yeji asked the guy where he could be. One passed on that the Dex in the village church. He also threatened this guy. Therefore, the guy with tears in his eyes apologized to Eiji and begged him to save him. He really wanted nothing to happen to the girl. Eiji said therefore not worry, he would save Miriam. Then he ordered Adaya to evacuate all the villagers. Adaya accepted the order. Eiji moved away from the boy and looked at his trembling hand. Honestly, he was scared. But he was the only person here. He had to escape from here. The guy tried to overcome the tremors and calm down. Ryasaline was approached and gave him a ring. It was not just a ring, but a demonic. His action is a weakening of magical forces. He will reduce the power of the boy 1,000 times. The guy looked at her distrustfully. He did not understand why she gave him an artifact that reduces her strength. Ray explained to him that if the ruler uses all his power, the continent would sink. The guy was surprised by this news. The girl explained, if the guy has a ring, he can only destroy the village. She was amazed that even with the ring he was able to destroy the whole village. Of course, it would be better for Rai if he won Dex without magic. The ring will be a safety in case of danger. Eiji confidently opened the door of the church and went inside. Dex, noticing him, greeted it. Bistvin was waiting for the guy. The Dex was waiting for the appearance of Eiji. The saliva flowed from his chin. He felt the smell of the magic of a man. Suddenly, someone called Eiji. It was a mix. The girl was tied to the cross. She looked at the guy with relief and joy. Yeji examined the girl from afar, checking whether she had injuries. Fortunately, the girl was not injured. The guy confidently reassured the frightened girl and promised that they would save her. Hearing this, Maria calmed down. She looked at the guy who came to her help. Unlike Agi, overwhelmed by strong magic, Ro was an experienced fighter in the Royal Knights. She could use logs without serious consequences. Therefore, the guy did not use the attack. He ordered the girl to attack. Rhea understood his order and began to prepare for the attack. The girl was an elf and was able to use magic. Several fiery balls appeared in the air. Ray used a magic fiery shot and attacked Dex. The Dex was surprised for a moment, looking at her, but smiled quickly again. Fireballs could still get the guy, but quickly disappeared. The guy and the girl was surprised to look at the unsuccessful attack of Rhea. It turned out that the Dex created a barrier around him that protected it from fiery balls. Rhea and Eiji were surprised. The Dex used the spell of the Antaganda shield. Kazumi also had such a shield. That guy realized the seriousness of the situation. For some reason, the Dex could use human magical techniques. Ray also noticed it. She told the guy that the Dex was getting more of the relic than she, the elf. Yeji put his hand in his pants pocket. The guy got the ring given to him by Rhea. If the girl's attacks do not help, he will have to use it. The guy froze on this thought. He looked at the ring on his palm and did not want to use it. She calmly called the girl standing next to him. He ordered her to take Maria and leave the building. The guy put the ring on his finger. Everything is resolved. He will rush into battle. Now, after his words, the guy was completely focused on the enemy. He was quietly waiting for the next attack. The girl accepted the order of her master. She immediately disappeared and asked him to do everything possible to win the enemy. Ray used her forces and climbed into the air. She tried to get to Mary. This was noticed by a terrible cat. The girl landed on the wooden cross to which Mary was tied. Ray released the hostage of Dex with the help of fiery magic. Suddenly, the beast ran out of the side. He hit the paw with sharp claws, but the girl with Mary in her arms easily evaded. Ray kept Maria in her hands and fled from Dex. She hurried to the exit. The guy noticed how the girl left the church, and his order was executed. The Dex saw her going, but he was indifferent. In the end, the animal was not interested in them. He just needed a man. The so annoyed not only the behavior of a cat, similar to an animal, but also its rude appearance. He did not endure such old ones, so he tried to present him with a beautiful girl. The guy in his head turned on the filter of a beautiful girl. Immediately, the guy looked like an attractive girl with cat ears. The guy tried to show the rival as a seductive girl, but he could not control her actions and words. The girl instantly turned into a monster similar to an animal who wanted to destroy the boy. Eiji became bad. The filter of a beautiful girl disappeared, and the Dex appeared again in her terrible form. He attacked the guy, but the Jessa managed to evade. The guy had time to react in time. If he had lingered for a second, it could be late. The Dex was surprised that the guy had time to evade. Eiji stood up and looked at the enemy anxiety. He wanted to use the skills that Rhea showed him to defeat Dex. Eiji, like Rhea, used the spell of a fireball, but before him there was a fiery ball much larger than in Rhea. The guy could not believe. He looked in surprise at the fiery ball he created. The Dex was also amazed, but the bullet has already flew to the bist of Guy. There was a strong explosion in the church. The Esla fell to the floor, struck by the power of its magic. He put on the ring. The church was severely affected by the force of blow. The guy thought it was a culinary spent. He remembered how Rhea had already used it. Eiji was surprised that he used only 1,000th of his power. Suddenly, there was an evil funny near the guy. It was Dex. He remained unharmed after the guy's attack. The cat hole praised the guy. Eiji looked at him with surprise. He withstood a fiery ball of huge size. The Dex did not think that he would see Inno legendary fiery magic, but he expected it from the person. The guy was ashamed of the name of his attack. The Dex was in poor condition. He trembled and climbed the paw to his pants pocket. He was looking for something in himself. Eiji did not understand his actions. The monster did not want to use it, but forced. The Dex took out a bottle of pills. He drank all the fluid from the vial with trembling hands. The body of the enemy began to increase. The food only stared widely at everything that happened. The big cat on 4 paws approached the excited guy. The guy was still shocked from recent events. He thought Dex wanted to start a great war of monsters. The guy tried to use magic again. Without changing the spell, he attacked the opponent with a fire bullet. The fiery ball approached his enemy, and the explosions were erupted again. The guy did not miss, but the decks did not get damage. Ag again attacked the spell of a fireball, but unexpectedly for him, the ring could not stand his strength and crumbled. The feast began an attack on the Edgy, thinking that it would win it. The Dex pressed the boy with his paw and tried to let his claws into his body. Ag realized that he was in a difficult situation. The guy remembered Ree and Slim, who were waiting for him. He was annoyed because he finally found the perfect place for life. Dex was surprised that he would not be able to push his paw and get prey. He began to press the effort. The feast wanted to deal with the guy. At this time, Edgy gathered all his forces and rejected the enemy far back. The guy did not want to lose the perfect place he found and his comrades. From his blow, the guy flew into the air. Ag calmed down and landed, staring slightly. The guy woke up immediately and started looking for Dex. Suddenly, his great rival fell. The guy stared at the crater, in the center of which was a defeated rival. Ag realized that he won. The girls ran to the winner and hugged him. They once again apologized for not going. She was afraid of the guy after the explosion. At the same time, she liked these embrace. The guy was glad to feel it. The guy became stronger after arriving in this world. Maybe magic has significantly strengthened his body. Everything was good. The guy smiled, looking at the girls who were held in his arms. Due to its power, it will be able to protect everyone. Yeji was happy to victory and hugged Miri and River in response. He rejoiced that everything was fine with them. The girls were glad that the guy hugged them in response and worried about them. The company quickly approached the cube. The guy was glad that his sister was not injured. The girl was rescued. Let you also want to approach the mire and hug it. But she pushed him and did not hug him. Maria became angry because he wanted to hug her using the situation. The cube was glad that the girl told the girl not to be ashamed of him. But Maria was still indignant. However, she was awkward. He shrugged the deck. Now they live quietly again. Eiji and Ria are aware of the frivolous conversation of brother and sister. She helped the peasants clean the remains of burnt houses. The kids were running fun around him. After a while, the tired guy landed on the grass. Most of the work has already been done. The Dex attacked the village of bears, but the Slim extinguished the fire. Thanks to the structure of the body, it absorbed water and destroyed the sources of fire. Eiji called. It was Raya. A girl with a handkerchief in her hands began to wipe his sweat from the boy's forehead. The guy helped restore the village with River. The Dex attacked the village through him, so the guy decided to take responsibility for the destruction. He gained strength to continue to help the peasants. Ria viewed her handkerchief. She was glad that she was able to wipe the boy's sweat. Now the handkerchief reminded her of him. The girl lifted the fabric to the face and breathed the residual smell of the boy. Eiji returned to her in surprise, but the girl immediately took a handkerchief. The guy remembered that he had destroyed the magic church in the village. He apologized, but the locals said not to worry. They have already restored the church. They made a bronze statue of the Ezi master. From that day, there were no other gods except the master of the ECI. The guy is because of this. The royal guard, led by Rosetta, arrested Dex. The Dex used a relic too often, and it influenced his mind. He couldn't even talk. Now no one will give information, but I am a little sorry. The guy worried from where the Dex came from the relic. She guessed that there were other people in the world. But the heavy thoughts disappeared, the Slim in their usual form distracting it. He calmed down and stopped thinking about it. There were many problems, but the Dex had already understood, so good days returned. The next day the guy woke up to bed. It had only shorts, his arms and legs were in shackles. The guy looked at the ceiling and did not understand what was happening. Suddenly, he noticed Kazumi, who was quietly sitting nearby. Kazumi confirmed that she was chasing her husband. But Lady Ria ordered Kazumi to challenge the owner's body. Yoji did not understand why Ria ordered Kazumi to do it. Soon the girl they were talking about came to them. The guy wanted to find out in Ri why she did so with him, but she did not enter the room alone. There were other girls with her. Mirai, Rosetta, and Sleemy approached the guy on the bed and greeted him. She was surprised to see them. He still didn't understand what was going on. Ria explained the guy with a smile that they were waiting for training today. She had previously told him. The guy remembered that she told him something, but did not remember the details. Then he wanted to sleep very much. Returning to the girl, he worried about his role in training. Ria answered him, blushing. Edgy did nothing, just lay on the bed, that was enough. The guy was surprised by her words because he had nothing to do. He still didn't understand what was going on. Ray started training. She kissed him. Now he realized what was going on. This workout was for Ria and other girls. The girls followed everything. Rosetta envied Ria and was dissatisfied with her attention to the boy. Ray soon interrupted the process of obtaining magic. She turned to the girls and urged them to start working. They wanted to become stronger thanks to this training. At the same time, the boys improved their protection. It was more effective than training separately. The guy began to imagine how he was training with all the girls. He could not allow it. Lime suddenly came to him and took him by her hand. Touching his skin, the girl felt her magical power increased. From this, she began to glow. He was tickling from the touch of the slim. He laughed and tried to stop her. At this time, Maria looked at him with delight. If she kisses a guy, he will faint as last time. So she decided to act differently. She went to the boy and touched his skin, feeling shame. Her heart pounded from this closeness. Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes wide. She felt the magic of the boy gave her strength. Maria was completely happy from the incredible sensations of magic. The girl enjoyed it. The guy was embarrassed when Maria started to touch him vigorously. She wanted to always feel that happiness. Yogi tried to reassure Maria and Slim. Rosetta watched everything. The girl has not yet approached the boy, but wanted to touch where Ria touched. However, she did not want to kiss the boy. Her heart belongs only to her beloved Ri, therefore she cannot kiss the AG master. At this time, Ri enjoyed the guy, but Rosetta was already touched by Edgy and remembered the bliss from his magic. Now the guy couldn't stop laughter because of the flap from Slema and Mary. He pleaded with tears in his eyes Rosette to save him. But the girl did not help him solve the problem. She, along with others, leaned and started touching the guy. It was an order from a beloved Ria, and she couldn't refuse her. The guy was in an uncomfortable situation. Her touches tickled him. Edgy was laughing at tickling all the time. He looked at the remaining girl with hope. Edgy began to be pleased with the rescue of it from tickling. He wanted her to free him from captivity, but Ria did not understand him. She thought he was asking for her to kiss her again. The girl with red cheeks leaned to the boy and kissed him. After that, everyone touched his body and fainted from the excess of their strength. Kazumi praised his restraint. On a warm day, the guy lay on the bed. Raya leaned to him with a blush on his cheeks and kissed him. She looked at the guy with joy after the kiss. The girl was happy to be near him. Suddenly, a girl from the village of bears came to the Edgy and Rija, which lay nearby. Maria called the boy. The girl with bear ears asked the boy's permission to join them. The guy looked tired, but Eiji agreed. To the surprise, Maria gladly ran to him. She approached him and kissed him. Aro was trying not to be jealous of this guy. From the time he got into this world, his days have passed this way. After talking to the boy, Maria felt the influx of magic. As she thought, the relic of Eiji is special. In Mary, energy has increased sharply, and the body's condition has changed. The boy's biomaterial had strong magical energy. It can be used to enhance other creatures. So he strengthened his comrades. Therefore, he had nothing to be ashamed. At the same time, Ray and Maria attacked the guy. They wanted to kiss him again. The guy was confused by their head, but he had to obey and accept all the kisses. Through this noise, Slime and Kazumi were distracted from classes. For a while, smiling girls finally left the boy and went to breakfast. He tiredly lay on a bed with red lips after everything. Ray reminded Mary not to forget to turn the sample after breakfast. The tired guy heard her words. He was interested in what Ray said. He wanted to find out what the sample was and what he needed. Merja winked the boy and said it was a secret. The girls left, and the surprised guy stayed. After breakfast, the guy lay on the bed. For him, the best moment is to fall asleep again. Moray food was delicious. The guy could fall asleep from such a dish. When he worked in the office, he did not dream such changes. Suddenly someone called him. It was Mireya. She wanted to go to the guy's room. When he learned that it was Mireia, he allowed her to enter. The girl opened the door, but did not enter the room. She returned to her companion. Ria reluctantly refused to go inside. Ria went down to the guy's room timidly. It had a short and frank form of the maid. The guy looked enthusiastically at Ria. In this outfit, she looked great. Mireia told him that she would sell this costume on the market in the capital next week. This is her new design. The boy really liked this clothes. He especially liked the part between the skirt and stockings. Even if everyone considers him a traitor, he will be among those who love short skirts. The guy inspired the girl's appearance. The voice of Slimmy distracted him from the feelings. She pulled her sleeve to attract attention. It turned out that the girl was also in the costume of the maid. The guy leaned to the Slim, stroked her on his head, and praised the girl. Slimmy rejoiced in this. The costumes of the maids were cute, but someone buys them. Suddenly, the guy noticed a girl huddled in the corner. She stood her back to all and hid. Because of this, Mary began to be nervous. Ria was red and could not believe that it was such a popular and beautiful dress. The guy realized that she had not wore such clothes before. Her figure was rare in this world. The guy praised the girl, saying that this dress was very good. The girl looked cute. Ray, having heard these words, stopped worrying for a minute. The girl only thought that she was sweet in this dress. Therefore, Ray turned to Miri and enthusiastically tried to buy a suit of maid from her. The girl was ready to give away all the gold she had accumulated if she could sell her address. It was this that attracted Eiji. Miria was amazed at his actions. She couldn't make such big money. The guy thought that the girl just liked the dress. Subsequently, Ray and Eiji were in the pool. The girl massaged the back of a boy lying on a soft mattress. The guy was relaxed and enjoyed. He was very convenient. The girl rejoiced in this. He ate delicious food, slept when he wanted, and helped him to wash. The guy realized that it was a luxury for him, but there was something that he did not like. Ray noticed his changed behavior and asked about it. He confessed to her that he had felt dissatisfied recently. It made her think. She thought that Eiji was dissatisfied with their love plan, that is, the development of their relationship. The girl took a towel, unfolded it, and gladly showed her body to Eiji. But the guy has already found the answer to his question. In fact, he had little adventures in life. The girl heard his words and realized that she was wrong. She closed and asked the boy about his words. Joey explained that he did not complain about his life. In fact, he wanted to see many new places after he found himself in another world. But it was not a very good idea. If someone learns that the guy was a person, he will have big problems. Ria noticed the boy's mood and suggested that he go to the market next week. Eiji wanted to see the Mirius shop, so you need to hide the boy's hair and mask the river. Then it will be possible. The guy apologized for his selfish thoughts. However, the girl was not against his request. It was the responsibility of the boy's desire. Therefore, Ria wanted to start as soon as possible to fulfill his desire. The day of the trip to the capital has come. On the street, the guy said goodbye to Kazumi and Slim. They stayed at home. The guy, along with Rio, went to the slope. When they came, they just stood and waited. Ray prepared everything you need for the adventure. The guy should like a surprise. I stood on the slope and waited for transport to the capital. High in the blue sky above the girl and the guy hung the airship. The guy was surprised to see the airship. The guy looked at the airship. He froze with his mouth open and wide open. Suddenly he noticed a black ant near the airship. This ant became a creature. It turned out that someone jumped down. It was a Rosette, a girl with long black hair. She smiled brightly when she saw the river next to the boy. It was amazed by the unexpected appearance of Rosette. He stood with his mouth open and looked at the falling girl. Raya looked at the girl with annoyance. Rosetta was flying in the air and was already near Eiji and Ria. Rosetta happily called her dear sister. Flying to the rock, Rosetta landed elegantly nearby. The girl went down from the sky and immediately hugged his foster sister. Ray did not respond to her hugs because she was annoyed by her obsession. The guy was surprised by the rapid movement of Rosette because she landed only a second ago. Ray pushed the girl from herself. A girl with black hair and a big smile said Ray and Eiji to sit on an airship. The guy did not understand how they could get to the airship. After all, the airship was high in the sky. Rosetta said not to worry and promised to solve everything. The girl waved with 2 fingers and used magic. The wind at the boy's feet lifted the letter G into the air. The guy exclaimed from the unexpected movement up. She did not understand what happened. Rosetta answered the guy's questions. She used the magic of air to rise and descend. Hearing this, the guy realized that such magic was convenient to move in space. Ray said that if he used this spell, AG would have lifted the whole continent to the stars. But the guy did not know how to use this spell. They quickly reached the airship and were able to go inside. The guy learned that thanks to Rossetti, they received access to the airship. Her family was one of the most influential in the capital. E.G. decided that Rosetta was a young girl of aristocratic origin. He thought why she became a royal knight. Suddenly, Rosetta called the guy. The girl wanted to give the prepared clothing he asked to cook. They had to change clothes because they soon arrived in the capital. The guy was interested in the situation of Rosette but decided to think about it later. They finally came to the capital. It's time to entertain. The airship stopped at the mansions of Arborny. The guy thanked Rossetti for a pleasant journey. The girl accepted his gratitude. She told them she had received an order from the management, so he will not be able to go with them. Rose hoped that they would like the capital. The guy and the girl went outside. They dressed so that they would not be recognized. Eiji hid his hair under the hat. Rio wore sunglasses and hats to hide himself. The guy walked down the street and looked enthusiastically. An incredible, beautiful landscape was waiting for him. Eiji first saw the royal capital. It was struck by the architecture of the city. She was also attracted to the lively appearance of the market. There were representatives of different races in the royal capital. The guy who looked at them realized, this is a world that has no people. He needs to be careful. Ray began to look for something in her bag. She wanted to give the boy one thing. This was a fabric bag filled with money. The guy opened his eyes wide, seeing so much money. The girl did not understand why he was surprised. Everything was different for Eiji. The guy was surprised because he didn't know where the girl had so much money. Ria explained that most of the money in the bag is a tax raised by the residents of the village of Bear. Their village was controlled by the Genji. Most of the village revenue brought this guy's relics, so they could take a share. The guy never thought he would ever collect tribute. The guy realized that it was a gift from the village of Bears and decided to spend money wisely. Raising his head, he saw a man who sold weapons at the bazaar. He sat on the ground, spreading the weapon on the blanket. The guy came up and sat down to better consider the product. He felt exactly the fantastic feeling he was looking for. The old man asked him if he was an adventurer. The man looked carefully at the guy. His insightful look forced the boy to get lost. Considering the man, he realized that he was probably gnome. Eiji answered the old man negatively. The guy wondered who he was. In fact, he did nothing in this world. Suddenly he remembered the seller. The old man told him that with a weak body, not to become an adventurer. Therefore, he could not sell his weapons. He was rudely trying to expel the guy. However, the girl was embarrassed. He just wanted to look at the old goods. He may have interfered with the work of this seller. Ray was strongly approaching the seller. Raya struck her foot next to the old head. She became angry because of his rudeness. Raya asked if he knew who Eiji was. The old man belonged to the oldest and strongest race. The girl did not have time to contract. The guy closed her mouth with her hand. Eiji, holding an angry girl, told the seller not to pay attention to them. After a while, after calming down, Raya apologized to the guy. Eiji told her that everything was fine because the girl just wanted to protect his honor. But the girl still remained upset because of the recent case. She pushed the boy and almost revealed his origin. Eiji saw the girl upset and wanted to support her, so I suggested that she eat something. It turned out that they were selling kebabs from the larvae of the butterfly. It looked unappetizing, but the taste was gentle and creamy. The guy was discontinuing, learning about it. We pointed to another meat with meat. The girl said it was a barbecue from a baby orca. Through this story, the guy lost his appetite. Ray thought all is well. She wanted to buy him food in these stores, but Eiji refused. He no longer wanted to eat. The guy asked the girl where she wanted to go. She was not in the capital for a long time. The guy wanted to thank her. The girl looked at Edgy with delight because of the good words of the boy. She wanted to go to the store that was interested in her. It was a clothing store, but only women's underwear was sold here. The guy realized that such shops are in another world. Suddenly, Ria asked the boy to choose and take her clothes from this store. She was awkward. She first came to such a shop, so Ria did not know what to choose. Eiji was also little aware of this, but the guy could not refuse the girl. He saw clothes with an adult design, but he did not fit Ray, although it would look good. Raya thought that they liked this design, but he was silent because of shame. The girl was upset, believing that he does not like this choice. Yet she confessed that he did not like this style. At that time, Ria offered other options. The girl showed the first type of linen. The guy said these clothes are coming. The girl bought it right away. The second type of linen was closed than the first. The guy also liked this clothes, and Ray bought it. After buying clothes, Ray thanked the Edgy. She bought everything she liked the guy. The girl was glad that he was carrying packages. The guy wanted to thank the girl and told her not to worry. Then they went to the hotel, which was chosen by Ria. Soon the guy and the girl approached the building. The girl told the boy that they would stay in this hotel for the night. The entrance to the building was unusual. Lighting created lights in the form of hearts. It was a hotel for lovers. Yeji looked at the hotel who chose the girl. Ray looked at the guy squeezed. She bought clothes at night. Subsequently, they went to the room in the hotel for lovers. The room was completely decorated in pink. There was only one double bed in the middle. Ray explained the guy that all the gorgeous hotels belong to influential people. Therefore, it is best to hide in this hotel. You were surprised when Ray brought him to this hotel. But if the girl told the truth, it seemed better to stay here. The fact that they would sleep together did not mean that there should be inappropriate feelings between them. So the guy thought. But when they were about to go to bed, Ray suddenly raised the division of the dress. The girl completely removed the dress. She stayed in the clothes she bought today in the store. With her actions, she stunned the boy. Raya, I pretended to do nothing wrong. She explained the guy that she just wanted to show him her new clothes. The girl began to return, showing herself from all sides. Edgy was able to see it well. He swallowed saliva nervously. The guy, feeling confused, quickly approached the girl. Ria only shuddered from the surprise because of his sudden appearance. Yeji was happy when he saw the girl and hugged her firmly. The clothes sat on it well. He leaned to the girl's ear, blushed and sweat. He confessed to the girl that he could no longer restrain herself. Raya finally achieved its goal. She was glad that Eiji was finally interested in her. She smiled gently by the boy. Her cheeks blushed. The guy understood everything. From the lingerie store to the hotel, everything planned Ria. Eiji began to help the girl. He carefully unbuttoned her outerwear. If Ria wanted it, he should behave as a man. I carefully lowered him on the floor between the boy's feet. His face blushed through our actions. The girl wanted to start service. The girl smiled in the EG and began to seduce him. The guy trembled from pleasant and new feelings. It was his first time. While the girl skillfully gave the boys pleasure, Eiji said goodbye to her innocence. He no longer thought about the consequences. The guy just wanted to succumb to his desire and pleasure. Eiji felt happiness. The next day, when the sun just came down, the room had to hear birds singing. The guy looked silently at one point. He was depressed and upset. The guy never was able to put up with his first defeat. Due to human things, his biomaterial may have had the greatest magical power during the process. Therefore, Ray, touching the boy's biomaterial and receiving his magic, fainted. The girl who could kiss the boy for 10 minutes in a row suddenly fainted and left him. While the guy was thinking about an unsuccessful attempt, the girl came to her senses. Ria called Eiji. The girl felt upset and guilty through yesterday. Ria apologized to Joyce. She was lost. She just smiled and reassured the upset girl. He said they will get used to it over time. The guy's words moved the girl. She looked at him with admiration and respect, with tears in her eyes. The long-awaited final examination of the weight loss program was first suffered. Waking up, the guy began to enjoy the day spent with River. The guy and the girl went out for a walk. They were surprised by a large number of people in the capital. On that day, a fair was passed in the royal capital, which happens every 2 years. The guy was surprised to find out from Rhea. AG went with River, but suddenly he was called by the girl and he paid attention to her. It was Mary. The girl standing near the couple waved Edgy. Yeji saw that he was his girlfriend. He wanted to approach a familiar girl, but saw a long queue near her store. Edgy looked at her and was surprised. The guy heard Maria's clothes became popular, but he didn't think there would be so many people. Maria said because there are many brands more popular than her. Experienced tailors from all over the kingdom gathered here today. Mireille wanted to take part in this fair. It was her first step to work with a designer in the capital. You notice that Mary is very trying. The guy and girls saw a suit of maid worn by Slim and Real. Maria thanked Rhea because she is well sold, well thanks to her. This outfit has become popular with many girls. Although things for babies were sold worse than Edgy expected, she thought she would have worried about this world if they were selling well. Suddenly, an unknown man turned to the seller roughly. The stranger called the guy his shoulder grossly and painfully, forcing Yeji to retreat a little. The man looked at them from above. He asked me to sell all kits of baby clothes that were in the store. Mary and the girl who sold her clothes felt awkward. The man broke into their room without waiting in line. The girl wanted to solve the situation, but the man did not listen and only offended her with words. Yeezy was worried about a rough client. The servant of the man announced that it was the Marquis of the capital of the kingdom, that is, the Marquis of the Cyber Red Star. After presenting the Marquis, he wanted to continue his purchase confidently and self-confidently. Ray knew the Marquis Keban. The guy looked at the girl in surprise and wanted to know this rough man. It was a famous nobleman from the capital. They said that he could accidentally steal a simple man and mocked him. The cyber abused power and was a bad person. The one was frightened by this information. He was angry, but could not interfere, not to put his comrades in danger. Maria nervously and carefully made shopping the Marquis in the bag. The cyber liked this girl. Therefore, the man grabbed her hand and pulled her frightened girl. Yagi and Rhea were impressed with his act. The guy and the girl were immediately straightened because of the situation. Mark pulled the girl to himself and began to deliberately consider her. Looking closer, he appreciated the beauty of the network. Sibern liked he. Therefore, he told a frightened girl that she would belong to him from now on. After the words that the girl would become his property, Cyber Red Star brought Mirai closer and began to touch her brazenly. The girl wept with fear. She wanted her husband not to touch her. Yeji saw a frightened girl and was angry. He wanted to save her from the tent, but Rhea stopped him with her hand. Ray told the guy that she would solve this situation. AG is better to stay, not to give out their identity. The girl on the cheeks was no longer a blush. RIA was tense and looked at the cyber with a malicious and gloomy look. The guy was confused to see it for the first time. Recognizing, he quietly departed as Rhea asked. Rhea ordered Mary to release and not touch her. However, he did not stop and was surprised by the courage of the girl who appeared before him. Seeing that Maria Marquise did not release Mary, Rhea repeated her words again. It just angered the cyber. He was annoyed that some stranger gave him orders. He completely pulled the sword and swung on the girl. He wanted to show her her place, but she evaded his blow. The girl swore and began to shoot glasses and hats. She dropped everything that hid her true face. The Marquis took off his glasses and hats. A familiar girl stood in front of him. Shocked and frightened, he said her name. It was Ray Demon. The girl looked angry at him. Eiji saw everything that happened when the Marquis was worried, recognizing Rui. The guy was also worried that the man could recognize Ray, but his distraction whispers nearby. The girl standing next to the boy called Ray. In the crowd, many people were passionate about the river. Rhea was the youngest woman who has ever managed the Royal Knights. She was more popular than Eiji thought. The Marquis was angry, seeing the captured crowd because of the girl's appearance. She is a knight, but her daughter is a common man. The girl cannot withstand him, the Marquis. The angry cyber ordered his knights to study the girl. His subordinates immediately accepted the order and moved to Ray. One of them swung the sword and tried to attack the girl, but it disappeared instantly. The surprised guy began to look for her. Ria does not even have to use the force given to her Agi. The girl flew with magic and suddenly appeared on his sword. The girl looked gloomily at her opponent. She told him to those who obey not to be upset. They just served not that person. After that, the girl jumped instantly, taking advantage of the sword as a support. She knocked the knight with a blow. Winning him, Ray paid attention to other subordinates. She rushed to them. Ray, a few rapid blows, immediately won all the subordinates. The Marquis Febern was left alone in front of the river. The man still believed in virtue of his status. He spanned and tried to order the girl to obey him. Ray looked silently at the Marquis with a gloomy and serious look. The man was afraid of Ray, but still tried to conquer her. The Marquis became angry and stopped afraid of the girl. He began to threaten her and said that the whole world would be against Ray. But it didn't matter to Ray. From the very beginning, Ri decided to always follow her master Eji. The girl was confident in her choice, so she was ready for it. The Marquis Cyber realized that his threats did not affect the girl. Now he realized his situation and was frightened. He tried to defend himself with a friend Kazul, commander of the Royal Knights. But the girl has already started the attack. Cyber wanted to get out of this situation. He threatened the girl again. If she attacks, he and his friend will change her position to knight. Raya was not afraid of his threats and struck the Marquis with all his strength. With this blow, the girl released her anger on it. From her blow, the man flew and hit the ground 3 times like a stone on the water. Ray told him that she would always be near the owner. She looked at the girl with delight. At that moment, the girl was very beautiful. The guy moved her words. Suddenly he heard some noise. The crowd followed everything. People rejoiced in victory over Cyber. They were fond of a girl. Worried, Mary ran to the girl. She thanked Ri for salvation and for understanding the strange Marquis. The girl hugged Ray and continued to thank her. Miri cried from strong emotions. The recent event was very frightened. Suddenly, someone called Ray. The representative of the elves warned the girl. He said the knights heard the noise and went to their direction. She realized that they were in a difficult situation. If the knights see the Marquis unconscious, then they think that Raya betrayed them. Representatives of different races persuaded the girl to escape. They wanted to help her avoid knights, so they quickly brought her out of the scene. They rejoiced and thanked the girl for teaching Cybernalisand. Eiji rejoiced in the girl. Many residents adored her. The guy felt the change in his position. It turned out that the girl lifted him as a princess. Ray thanked everyone with a smile. Edis are neither because of their situation. A group of residents saw Ray carry a boy in his arms. They wanted to see her boyfriend's face and wished her happiness. The girl with a confused boy in her hands tried to move away, and someone watched them from the roof. The stranger noticed that the magic of Ria was human. This meant that her guy was in her arms. They finally found the one they were looking for, Mizaki Yuji. They looked at them in a black cloak. His mask closed the upper part of the face. There were drawings on the cheek. A girl was standing near him. A girl with 2 long tails. Its special feature was the wings on the head. The boy's teammate could not understand who from the crowd. Eiji. Eiji has completed the capital's research. The sky was flying an airship with Eiji, Ray, and Rosette on board. The girls communicated, and he looked out the window at a beautiful landscape. Recently, there has been a lot in the capital with them, but it has brought joy. His relationship with Rias has also become much closer. The guy dreamily remembered what happened to him at the hotel for lovers. Suddenly, he remembered one detail. He wanted to find out where Ria went out last night. It turned out that the girl came out last night to get rid of cyber swords. The guy was silent as Raya calmly told him about it. Rosetta reported Ri that there were more than 100 soldiers in Villa Marquise. She needed to cope with them. Rosetta was glad to help Ray. Now the leader of Cyber of the Red Star is unlikely to decide and harm them. The girl quickly coped with these problems. Yeji asked his companion whether everything was fine with her. Rial looked at the boy with misunderstanding. She did not understand what he was talking about. In fact, the guy was just worried about the girl because of yesterday. She will no longer be a royal knight. The girl did not upset this situation. Changing office was not a problem for her, because her place was near the owner. The girl told it to the boy and smiled gently. She felt happy with him. Eji looked at the girl with delight. The words of Rias moved him. The guy leaned to Ria to kiss her. The kiss did not happen. They were stopped by the presence of Rosette. She looked angry at the boy and girl. Rosetta, without looking, was dissatisfied. She said Ri and Eji did not do anything shameful. She leaned closer and strictly said not to do it with it. The girl looked angry at them. Ria and Eji quickly turned away from each other. They apologized to the angry Rosette. A girl with long dark hair was angry because she was envied. He was able to kiss her beloved sister on the oath. At the same time, a sigh of sigh was heard in the capital. It was the Marquise Quiburn. The man became angry with the girl and never forgive her. His insult will not disappear until he makes Ray answer her actions. The man trembled from rage. He didn't know what to do. Most of his soldiers were amazed after we figured them with them. Suddenly, a man appeared in the Marquise office. The Marquise Quiburn was surprised by the emergence of an uninvited guest. It was a man with a roof. While the knights stood in the battle rack, he introduced the Marquis as Grace. Grace said Siburn that he was only a worthless demon. Red Star was surprised to hear that he was a demon. Demons, like this man, rarely appear, and little is known about them. The man knew about demons, only one known to everyone. They hated other races. Therefore, the Marquise rose from the chair angrily and ordered the frozen soldiers to expel the demon. The man did not move out of place and was not frightened by the soldier. He won't have to fight them. The guy in the black cloak and mask returned to his companion. She will fight the knights. The man called the girl who was approaching. She was called Kenan. The girl answered the guy's call. The knights did not expect their rival to be a little girl. Then they focused, because they had to execute the order. The men waved swords. They did not touch her. The girl disappeared immediately from their field of view. Now Kenan attacked them. The girl appeared behind with lightning speed and began to beat them in her back. Kenan attacked the knights and dropped them a few meters ago. The power of her blow was extremely large. The knights flew through the whole office of the Marquise and pierced the wall of the room. After the attack of the girl, a large hole appeared in the office wall. The Marquise with a cold sweat looked at her. The man trembled with fear. He was scared by the girl's strength, and he was stunned. The Marquise Quiburn wanted to reach the weapon, but the guy in shape immediately told him not to do so. He didn't want to fight anymore. It would be a waste of time. The masked demon explained the Marquise who this girl is. Kenan was a vampire kind, so she was strong. The Marquise understood its position. Vampires were thought to be the strongest among demons. Cyber Red Star wanted to know the demon, why he came to him. The guy told the interlocutor not to worry. They can help Red Star Marquise take revenge. Cyber, of hostility and distrust, looked at the bottle in front of him. The man asked that in this bottle. The tablets were called DD. The guy said that with them the Marquise would get the power of people. If Cybern helps Grace, the demon will give him one pill. The man became interested, but the boy did not trust. Therefore, Marquise could not trust the words of a man belonging to the kind of demons. However, the man thickened the pill into his mouth and forced him to silence. The Marquis was forced to swallow the pill. After that, the guy released Cybern NG. Cybern fell to the floor after swallowing the pill. Soon the sound of torn clothing came. The man's muscles enlarged, the veins are swollen. The end calmly and silently watched it. Marquis got all the power after taking the pill. At first, he had no right to abandon this agreement. The demon would not allow this. The weather was good outside. Slimmy, walking, returned to the house through the cave. Ria wanted to find out if Edgy liked the breakfast. The guy praised the girl's dish. Slimmy happily ate her breakfast. He also noticed that the girl had changed food. She seemed even more beautiful this time. Ria thanked the guy for the compliment. Ria always thought that medieval dishes are tasteless. Therefore, she took the mermis, for example. Ria worked a lot. The AG attracted some attention. He noticed how the girl was trying hard to open the bank he received from DE. Ria was unable to open it. The row was a knight, but the guy at first noticed she was a girl. Edgy took her bank and wanted to open it. She tried to open the jar, and he twisted the lid. Subsequently, the guy began to make an effort to open the bank. He was surprised that the bank did not open at all. The guy thought they got some defective jam. The clock of Desi in the girl's hand tried to open the jar. Rio was worried that he would not be able to open it. The guy put his hand on the lid to try. He maliciously and strongly tried to turn the lid. He did not calculate strength and crushed the bank. Scales with jam flew around. The guy looked at the empty hands and was surprised. Ray quickly ran to Edgy and wiped the spilled jam with a towel. But with the guy, everything was fine. He thanked the girl for his care and wanted to ask something in Ray. The guy wanted to know if he could become extremely strong. The guy still wondered that he could break the jar with his hands. Hearing his question, the girl was confused for a moment and did not know what to say. But she got over. The girl realized that he had previously considered himself an ordinary guy. Yet he was the strongest in the world for her. Ria will not achieve a quarter of his strength. The guy still remembers how weak was in his world, but in the end he does not feel stronger. Ria realized that the guy did not see his strength. Edgy thanked Slim. It was difficult during a battle with Decom Edge. The guy felt his physical strength suddenly increased. Ria explained the guy that he probably had the magic of body strengthening. The guy didn't know about such magic. The name spoke for herself. It was the magic of body strengthening. It can be activated in two ways. The first, she works herself. The second is when the magician gets into a difficult situation. This magic last worked when a man wanted to open a bank. The Johi was discontinuing because magic was activated just when he could not open it. The Slim tired and yawned. Arya said, Edgy, that he was getting used to spontaneous magic when she was captured. She was convinced that her teacher would be able to destroy the mountains effortlessly. Slimmy returned to his original shape. After the girl's explanation, the guy made a decision. From now on, he will start training and master this magic. Suddenly, a long sound came in the hallway. The guy and the girl paid attention to this noise. Rosetta made this sound. It was locked at the entrance. Little mucus membranes attacked her, leaving mucus on the girl. Its limbs were ivy. A guy with red cheeks looked at a helpless girl who was trapped. Soon Rosetta noticed this guy with others. The girl spoke off to the boy. She wanted her to be released faster. Yeji asked the Slim to save the Rose from the trap and give her her clothes. The tired Slim became a man again and returned the corner of her clothes. Rosetta Sheely wore her armor. The girl was annoyed that she was here without clothes. Edgy told her that uninvited guests would be eliminated as soon as they find. Rosetta even pitied future uninvited guests. Rosetta remembered that she did not have this. Suddenly, the girl noticed the strange behavior of Ria. She completely plunged into her fantasies. The idea of games with a guy with the use of slippery substance caused her shame. But she immediately woke up from her obscene fantasies. Feeling the views of others, Ria pretended that nothing had happened and decided to change the topic. The girl asked Rosette about her plans for today. The Rose got something from the bag. Rosette's father gave her this fragrant liquid, which he found on the eastern island. The girl wanted to share her with Ray. She pulled out a jar with a dark liquid. The guy was surprised to see it. With his eyes wrapped, he looked at the contents of the jar. To his surprise, there was soy sauce. There is soy sauce in this world. The food in this world was unsalted. Therefore, he saddened to the taste of soy sauce. Seeing the happy face of Rosetta, Ria accepted her gift and thanked the girl. Rosette guy went outside. The girl conducted workouts with magic. He was serious about mastering his strength. The guy was waiting for lunch today. Lunch was coming soon. There was already a dish with soy sauce on the table. Rosetta and Edgy looked at her eastly and eagerly. Rose was glad that she could taste the food prepared by Ray. Ray prepared vegetables from the village and fried dishes from small orc prey. Ag and Rosetta began to eat happily. The guy tasted the dish and felt the taste of soy sauce. He had not eaten with this sauce for a long time. But the guy stopped. The food was not the way he expected. She was too salty and had a wet smell. Rosetta was angry, seeing the dissatisfied expression of the boy. Through him, Rio was upset because she prepared a tasteless dish. In fact, the dish was tasteless. Because of this, the guy did not enjoy lunch. Ag asked the girl about the aroma she brought. The girl knew nothing about soy sauce. It was not a soybean season, but a traditional dish of Eastern countries. It is not soy sauce, but fish sauce, fish and salt. If Ria did not know about soy sauce, then it does not exist here. The guy thought. Suddenly, the idea was sleeping. If there was no soy sauce in this world, it could create it. If he makes a real sauce, he will be pleased. The guy with the slim went out of the house. He will call this plan an unsurpassed strategy for the spread of soy sauce in the world. Ag voiced these thoughts aloud. The slim looked at him with a strange look, and because of this, her cheeks blushed. Ag descended to the bear village, where he met a gambling. He asked for a bag of soybeans. The cube eagerly gave him beans. Ag poured beans into the vessel, added a little salt, and poured all the water. The guy looked at the soy sauce and remained silent. All he prepared was just a mixture of soybeans in brine. He did not know how to make soy sauce, so he only hoped that something would happen to soybeans. Suddenly, it was knocked on the door, and it was scared. The guy closed the container with a lid. He could not let Raya see it. Then he opened the door for the girl. The guy looked at her with excitement. Soon it was supposed to be bathing time. So Raya approached him. Yitze left the room. He did not notice how the time was fast, and it was time to swim. The guy wanted to take a bath because he worked hard today. Suddenly, someone called him. It was Rosetta. She confidently told the boy that she would go to the bathroom with River and Ag. The guy just looked at the dissatisfied girl with her eyes wide open. Rosetta will go with Ray and Ag to the bath. Upon learning of this, Ray agreed to the presence of Rosette in hot springs. The girl, without getting the weapon completely, said she knew about how Ria washes her back to the boy every day. She was jealous of the guy. The guy sees his named sister daily, so she helps him. Rosetta grabbed the guy by the collar. But Ria stopped her actions. The girl scolded, pushed the fare from the boy, and reassured her. He understood that the Rossetti could not tell what happened to the hotel. From the memoirs of his cheeks broke out. Rosetta looked at Ray with an incomprehensible facial expression and said again that she would go to the bathroom. The girl wanted to make sure that Ag would do nothing obscene about Ray. The guy was worried about the river and she was annoyed. However, she allowed Rossi to prove her innocence. Let her look is the fastest way. It makes no sense, if she only watches. She was satisfied with what she did. In the end, Rosetta will be able to see Ray without clothes. The girl rejoiced in future swimming. Rosetta entered the hot springs zone and was surprised by the structure of the room. There were many swimming pools here. Compared to this bath, the royal bath was only a puddle on the road. The girl looked at the room with delight. Rio warned her that it is not time to rest now. Their duty is to wash the owner's back. The girl started dumping her clothes. Rosetta did not listen to her words. She looked at the open areas of the girl's skin. Raya looked so attractive that the blood went into Rose. Such a body was a dream of Rosette. In her ideas, Ray seemed divine. Rosetta was satisfied. Ray immediately closed with a towel from the girl's gaze. She was ashamed to be naked in front of others, even if they were girls. To prevent Ray from feeling uncomfortable, Rosetta also began to shoot armor and clothing. In one linen, the Rosette came to the girl. She wanted to see the body of Rhea again. Rhea used magic and created an icy shield. It did not allow the girl to approach her. A girl with dark hair noticed a confused look of Ag on herself. From this, she was upset for a moment. Turning to the boy with her back, Rosetta told not to look at her. Ag immediately turned away and apologized. The actions of Ag upset and offended Rosette. She was upset because she thought the guy considers her to be ugly because of the big physique. She looked at the upset girl. He remembered that Ray was the same before. The Elfian also worried because of its large forms. But Ray did not allow Rossetti to miss. She approached her and said that it was not necessary to worry. The owner was just like the sizes. The girl said it, smiling and winning Rossetti. The Rose was stunned by this information. She returned to the boy and immediately got an obscene look from him. Rosetta felt Edgy's gaze on herself. She embedded and covered her body with her hands. The girl turned away from the boy and asked not to look at her. Ag expected such a reaction from Rosetta. Soon they entered the bath. Rosetta noticed the wine barrel and appreciated it. It was struck by the surprises of human culture. She began to test different types of fonts and was able to fully feel them. Subsequently, Rosetta joined Ria and Ag. Two girls and a guy were resting in the sauna together. Rosetta called the boy because she wanted to talk to him. Ag, relaxed in the sauna, answered calmly. Rosetta wanted to bring a little warm water with her. She needed her because the water contained a lot of magical energy of the guy. It could be used to create high-quality healing infusions. The guy allowed her to take as much as she wanted. He did not want to take anything from her or negotiate for the sake of water. They were friends, so he did not expect a reward from Rosette. The girl came out of the water because she was dissatisfied. She did not want to take something without agreement. The guy tried to reassure her and said that the deal was unnecessary because he had already noticed the wonderful proportions of her body. Rosetta looked at the guy unfinished, but soon understood his words. The girl breathed sharply and completely blushed. Yet he realized that he said unnecessary. Rosetta immediately jumped into the water to escape from it. She accepted the situation. If so, it will no longer think about the water agreement. After all, the guy looked at her body constantly. She was embarrassed from her words. The guy closed the red face with his hands. He was ashamed because he looked without permission. Rhea was dissatisfied with her actions. The night has come. The stars shone brightly in the sky. The guy was in his room and played with a slim. Rhea called the boy. In order not to bother the boy, she was silent until this moment. However, Rhea could no longer ignore the Rosette's attitude towards Edgy. The guy could not change anything, but it didn't bother him. In the end, the girl swore allegiance to Raya, not to him. But when the formation around the master becomes too large, the soldiers begin to obey the orders. The guy didn't know what to do with this problem. Rhea thought about this question. She said Ag to temporarily listen to her and do as Rius says. The guy did not know what would happen, but trusted the words of Rius. They came to the door of the room. Rosette was waiting for them there. Rhea warned the boy not to speak out loud in any circumstances. Then the girl opened the door. Ag and Rhea went to the room. The lighting was weak. The design looked gloomy. The guy noticed a couple who smelled pleasant. However, he forgot about the smell. The guy struck the look ahead. In the middle of the Rosette room, she sat motionlessly in a nightgown. Her eyes were closed with a thick bandage. He stood a diffuser nearby and released a nice couple. Rosetta heard someone entered. She called the river and called her evil. The girl sat on a chair and could no longer tolerate. She impatiently pushed the girl to have fun with her and have a good time, enjoying Rosette company. The Rose sits on a chair with tied eyes and hands. She tells her sister to hurry because she can't wait anymore. Raya stands behind Aki and tells her sister that is ready. Rhea tells her a smile not to worry, because now she will give her a lot of worries. Yogi Yamazaki looks at her and thinks that she has a terrible facial expression. Rhea begins to whisper Yogi Yamazaki. She asks him to kiss the rose. He asks in surprise whether it is really dangerous in such a situation. Meanwhile, Rosa continues to ask his sister to hurry. Rhea pushes Yogi Yamazaki and quietly says that he takes all his responsibility. For her, this is the only way to conquer him. The rose sits and trembles from waiting. Yogi Yamazaki approaches and thinks that Rhea has already thought, so he believes her. He leans to her and feels her lips strongly attracted. He moves to her and finally touches her. Rosa thanks me several times. She says she is very pleased inside her sister. She gets hot. Yamazaki already realized that everything is because of the aroma. They repeat it again. Yodzi Yamazaki considers this game immoral. Then Rhea approaches them and says that the time has come. Does it remove the eye bandage? Yoga Amasaki and Rose screaming from surprise, seeing each other nearby. The Rose shouts at the sister that it is cruel. She asks why her sister did so with her. Yogi Amakas are standing side by side and feels guilty. He hurts him. Ray seriously says it is for her good. Rose does not understand and raises her eyes on her. Rhea says he cannot only rely on himself to serve the owner. It is time to end it. There is a bitter silence. The Rose lowers the gaze. Yodzi Yamazaki thinks it is a punishment of love from Ray. It looks like a forced way. Rhea asks the craft to understand that her heart is already belonging to her mentor. She didn't want it. She just wanted a kiss from the mentor. The Rose begins to tremble, trying not to cry. Rose shakes his head and shouts that he refuses because he loves only his sister. Then she stops suddenly and realizes something. She says with burning eyes that it is a test. Her sister checks if she loves her. So don't worry her, she understands everything. Raya swallowed. Ria turns to Yoga Masaki and asks if he can kiss her again if words are not acting on it because it is in vain. Yogi Yamazaki fits, removes her eyes from her and says it will not work. Ria looks at him with a question. Yogi Yamazaka apologizes to Ria and says Rosa will not change his mind even after that. He says that she has to choose who to fall in love. Hearing this, the Rose begins to blush. Aki with Yoga believes that it was possible to solve the problem of dedication of Rose otherwise. They overdo it a little. Rose is raised and waving everything from the knees. Yoji Yamazaki respects the sense of pitchfork to Rei. He says the pitchfork that he is sorry because of the size of Rei and lowers his eyes. Rosa approaches Yodzi Omizaki and asks him to return to her. As soon as he turns his head, she gently kisses him in the cheek. All are surprised, especially Raya. Yomazaki is standing with a red face. Rose says he can now call her just Rose. She smiles and says she has become close to him, so he can call it so. Then he goes and asks not to understand it wrong. She believes that men are rude, cruel, and think only by the body. She thinks it's the worst creatures. But Yoga Masaki, in her opinion, is not like that. She returns and tells him that she somehow changed his opinion about him. She smiles at him. In Yogizaki, he thinks that the process was strange, but there is progress. The rose rotates. She hugs them and says they will love each other now. When they kiss, happiness will be twice as much. It reaches for Ariya, but she retreats. Yoga Amazaki says that I'm glad to see how they find common ground. He believes that if they get around, everything will be fine. He adds that he will be able to absorb relics faster. She agrees and says she will understand if Lord says. The rose puts his finger on the lips of Amadaki Yoga and presses lightly. She asks if you can continue from the place where you stopped. Raya observes horror for her behavior. She says she was holding back. Rei screams Rose that it is unfair because she has kissed this man many times. She proposes to do it together, all three at the same time. The girl is slowly approaching Siggs Yamazaki. He in a panic asks if he really agrees. His heart is not ready for it. It falls on a bed from shock. Girls say they can be his partners at the same time. They promise to take care of Mr. Yoji Yamazaki. Raya thinks that he does not lose Rasi. Yogi Amachakaki thinks that due to his long relationship, their actions have been harmonious. Now he has nothing to regret. In the morning, Yogi Adzaki wakes up and yawns for a long time. He welcomes his good morning and thanks himself for the wonderful day. Along with him lies Ria. The rose knocks on the door and welcomes Mr. Yoga Amazaki on the morning. He gives her the same words and asks if she has woke up. She replies that yes and adds that she returns to the royal capital today. Rosa says she is a little lonely, divorced with her sister, but she has a task. Yodzi Amadaki says he had asked earlier, but why is she so worried about the river? Then he clumsily adds that if she does not want to talk about it, then do not speak. Rose smiles and says he is right. It is not difficult for her to talk to him. It lies under the blanket next to the river. 5 years ago, in the Arverni family, the girl tiredly says that it is very unfortunate. The man lies on the ground and trembles from impotence. The 12-year-old Rose asks whether it is an adventurer. The servant worries. She asks her to stop because the competition is over. Rose replies that it has understood it. She says she does not want to waste her time for such a trifle. The man stands sharply and shouts to her that the poor should be respected. He uses a fiery ball and directs it to Rose. It uses a protective sword. The fire is reflected and returns to it. He shouts that he cannot believe that she has such a level of magic at that age. The fire embraces so much that the wig takes off from his head. The maid reminds the corner that she should meet with the son of an influential family after lunch. The Rose replies that it is clear. She sighs and says that she wasted for this adventurer in vain. She was interested in training with a sword, not being the perfect daughter-in-law. When other girls drank tea, she studied magic. She was not like all the other girls. In front of the mirror, the maid combed her hair and says she wanted to ask something. She asks whether she really is interested in men. Rosa proudly replied that she was not interested in these rude and cruel creatures. She said that even her father's opinion would not change her decision. She rejected all her fans. 2 years later, she was nicknamed the Scared Rose. She rebelled against her parents and joined the Knights of the royal capital. Everyone discusses whether the Arberni family wants to get rid of a dangerous person. She walked and thought she was indifferent. Who would say? It does not care. She was finally free. She always hated the life of a daughter of a noble family. Her future was defined, marriage for diplomacy. In order not to obey the will of men, she chose the path of the sword. A large man approached her in the guild and suggested to have fun together. She smiled as if she was waiting for it and asked if he really wanted to be beaten. Living as a knight is cool. Her age and family do not matter. To become a knight, she does not need noble origin. The main thing is the ability to own a sword. She really likes when men are inferior to her in fencing. When rumors about the crazy dog spread among the knights, she met someone. This person turned out to be a sister. Ray approaches her and asks whether she is a rose from a noble family. She replies that she is Ray, a captain of the 7th detachment. Ray reports the order of the captain of the knights. From now on, it will become a member of their detachment. Rose replies that she heard her words clearly and clearly. But unfortunately, she does not want to work on the one who is weaker than her. Ray just smiled at her. She throws her sword, but Rose does not understand what it is and what it is for. Ray asks to take the sword and attack it for 5 minutes. She said she would not use weapons or something like that. She cannot help not help the girlfriend to get the right way. Rose is angry and says with a smile that she is quite calm. She calls Ray garbage and asks if they do not know that they are enemies. Ray struck her neck in her neck, though she was stronger than her. At the end of the Rose lies on the ground tired. Ria says they seem to have finished. It was amazed at such speed and strength. Surprisingly, Rosa was not upset this time because of defeat. She was even allowed to start over. Ray told the boss that she would join their unit. She said the Rose would be under her control. It seems that she has not taught newcomers for a long time. After that, while studying the sister, their love became stronger. Real wakes up and asks Rose not to mix the truth. Rose happily says her sister woke up and welcomes her on a good morning. She wants to embrace Ray, but Ray has time to move elsewhere. Yoga Amachaki calmly says that the current Rosa and her behavior are a matter of Ria. She says Rose later became the vice captain of the 3rd Regiment. Then she sincerely obeyed her orders. She asked Ray to train with her. Ryu departs from an energetic girl. Ray does not sincerely understand why everything happened and why Rosa loves her so much. Yoga Masaki is also surprised why it happened. Yogi Yamazaki is stealing and quietly opens the door. He opens the barrels and says happily that soybean had to arrive yesterday. He sees that nothing happened. The beans remained at the bottom of the liquid. He thought that soybean supplement would turn black from salt water or something else. Kazumi approaches him and calls him Mr. Sipyachko. She tilts and asks what it is. Eiji says it is not what he thinks about. She assumes that he probably wants to make soy sauce. Yoji asks in surprise whether she really knows what soy sauce is. She replies that he knows. It is a favorite seasoning of Yashi-sami. Yodzi Yamazaki believes that soy sauce was made more than 10,000 years ago. Kazumi gives him advice. He needs yeast if he wants to make soy sauce. Yoga Amazaki looks at her with a question. She explains that he adds yeast to boiled soybean beans and mixes with fried and crushed wheat. Once upon a time, Eiji read a story about a hero who did everything simply because he was naive. It is difficult to make soy sauce if you are new and do not know how it is done. Kazumi again asks whether he wants to cook soy sauce. Yogi Yamazaki replies that yes, but it is impossible at this time. He wanted to surprise Ray. Kazumi says they need to explore the ancient ruins then. Yamamazaki asks what she means. Kazumi says that there are various kitchen appliances on the 2nd floor of the gourmet territory. If you turn on, you can get soy sauce, miso, ketchup, and even mayonnaise with one click of the button. The territory of hot springs on the ground floor is really impressive. If the gourmet area was used here, the food would be even better. But he remembers Galam and begins to sweat. Among the ruins, it asks him if something really happened when he was against their research. He is aware that he thought a lot about it. He is afraid to fight the golem, but if this happens, he will be able to escape to the 1st floor. Today they are just exploring the terrain. He says Ray's that she glows with happiness. She happily agrees. She believed that the shelter had to strengthen the defense. If they find more unions of golemoms, such as Kazumi, their combat force will become more stable. Kazumi is already glowing from these words. Yodzi Yamazaki thinks she looks happy. They go the corridor. Fuzumi shows down the stairs and says that the second floor begins here. They were on a large field with trees. They go down. Yogi Masaki is surprised that the second floor has become so. Butterflies fly, there is a fountain. Rei is also surprised that it is so spacious here. Compared to the first floor, this is much larger. Kazumi explains, the deeper he descends into the ancient ruins, the more spacious his territory becomes. In addition, the lower they descend, the stronger the guardian golets. Yogi Yamazaki believes that everything will be fine because 2 combat experts go with him. Kazumi says he returns to the ground floor. If something needs, you can call her. Yogi Yamazaki asks excitedly. If she really comes back, he sincerely apologizes. Golemus cannot cooperate with Golem from other floors. Yogi Yamazaki says it's impossible. She bows to him and wants success in battles. Yodzi Yamazaki says goodbye to her through pain. Rei nervously says Yodzi Yamazaki that they will try. He agrees with her with tears. They go the path. Rei says that it is quite quiet here. He says that it would be great to have a picnic. They notice the fruits on the trees and are interested in the fruit. She asks whether it is a monkey bread. It is said that this fruit is bittersweet and delicious. One fruit falls and Yoshiyamazaki is wondering what it tastes. Ria asks to entrust it to her and give her fruit. She removes a piece of paper from her collar, pulls a knife and cut a fruit. Ji is surprised it's a knife. She gives him half a fruit. He gladly takes her and says he will try now. He bites a piece and says that it is delicious. He asks Ria if she wants to try. She happily takes food and thanks him. Yoji Amachaki smiles. When they met, she was very worried about an indirect kiss, and he was a little sad for those times. Now they have survived a lot, so such a kiss is no longer concerned. She eats and says that she is very awkward, blushing her cheeks. Yogi Yamasaki realizes that she thinks the same. Ria says that it is an honor for her to touch the lips of the same place as the master. Yoga Emozaki does not understand why the taste is bitter and sweet. He is not sure whether it can be called what people call pleasure. It is very unreasonable to be satisfied with life. All girls suddenly shudder, and Yoga Amazaki begins to blush. Ria says his face blushed and asks what happened. He replies that nothing. At this time, crabs crawl to them. Hearing the loud pad of dissatisfied crabs, Eiji and Ria turned. Crabs quickly approach them. They are frightened without understanding what is happening. Yodzi Yamazaki inspects and notices that this monkey berry is their food. They take the fruit with claws. Rhea tells her master to stay behind her. She shoots in these crabs with a fiery ball. Yogiyama is surprised that she has become stronger than before. But they see that crabs are proudly clapped with claws and smiling. They look healthy. Then one crab jumps on Rai. Another crab cut off the division of the Rei's dress. She screams and fades because the crabs surrounded her. Yoga Amazaki does not understand why they attacked only on the river. In this situation, Raya is in danger. He thinks that if magic does not work on them, you should try another. He sees the fruit on the ground and raises it. It swings and beats the fruit on the crab shell. The crab squeaks and screams with pain without waiting for such a blow. Yoga Amazaki believes that this crab is now weakened. At this time, crabs are chasing for Aie. She thinks everything goes wrong. Crabs also attack Yoga Amazaki. For a while, crabs lie exhausted with cracks on the shells. Ani sighs and says that's all. Ria runs to him with tears and hugs him. She thanks him for salvation. She looks at her and thinks that this expedition was worth the effort. He is satisfied. He asks if she is not injured. She in a trembling voice says that all is well because she was saved by the owner. He says it's relief. Yogi Amazaki turns away from her, his cheeks turn red. He proposes to return so that she can dress. It also begins to blush. It is covered and says it's okay. She does not want to interfere with their expedition. It uses the last part of the clothes to cover up. Yoji Amadaki notices something and fades with fear. Ria does not understand what is with him, and he calls him. They rotate and see the breaks in front of them. He says he found uninvited guests and begins the combat procedure. Ria and Yoga Amazaki exclaims, knowing that there was a golem here. The ghoul detaches its parts of the body. Only his eye remains. She trembles and thinks if he really fight in this form. The tentacles grow from the eye, they reach the fountain and collect liquid. A large squid appears from the water. He says that the preparation for the battle is completed, and all foreigners will be destroyed. Yogi Yamazaki is surprised that he is so great. He looks forward again. The squid begins to attack. The tentacles immediately grasp the bride for their feet and pull to themselves. They hold its limbs firmly, and it cannot move. Yoyamazaki runs after her and screams, but she screams from all around. Yoyamazaki squeezes his fist and screams on the monster to move away from Rei. He beats the tentacle, but his fist passes through the body and leaves a crack on the wall. The tentacles of the monster are quickly recovering. Yodzi Yamazaki realizes that it is bad. It doesn't work. The tentacles of the monster grasp the neck. She is calling the owner with a trembling voice without being able to breathe. Yogi Yamazaki runs nearby and asks him to calm down. He understands that this ball should also have this button. It fits behind and sees the emergency stop on the monster's body. It raises a large fruit from the ground and waves it. It clicks on this button. This fruit is reflected from this button. He flies up, breaks the hole in the sky, and rises to the new floor. Everything is destroyed because the sky is broken. Kazumi and others tremble on the upper floor and do not understand what happened. Yoga Amazaki mentally apologizes to them. The monster says they press the emergency button. It takes the human form. The attacks cease. Yogi Masaki is glad what he did. The monster releases the ray. The tentacles begin to dissolve and become liquid. Aki with iodine catches Rei. They return to the monster together. They see a girl with 2 beams. The girl opens her eyes, calls him the master, and thanks for awakening her. The ghoul seems and says her name is Afoot. She is a garde de ghoul of the 2nd floor of the territory of the Horn. The 2nd ghoul is dressed in Chinese clothes. Yogi Yamazaki saw the river and began to whisper to her about her Chinese dress. Fadaba asks if he really understands her clothes. She says that the previous owner, Mrs. Ketty, liked such clothes. Mrs. Ketty was very fond of long journeys, so she brought them clothing from different countries. Yodzi Yamazaki now understands why Kazuma is dressed in Japanese clothes. This means that there is a place in this world that looks like Japan. He thinks he wants to take with him. He remembers something, namely soy sauce. He turns to Fuyaba and says he heard soy sauce on the floor. She is already smiling and asks if Sister Kazuma told it. Fuyaba says he will then explain to him how to use this thing that stands a little further. Yoga Masaki thinks he took a long time to achieve it. Finally, he will be able to feel the salty taste in this world. All 3 go to the building. They are surprised. Ria says that he is surprised by the appearance of such a building among these hidden ruins. They see crabs on the board. Fadaba says it is the production of crab clone. They are surprised. She says crabs are magical protection of this floor. They are strong, can use magic and hide. Their production does not stop. She says there are always hundreds of cars on this floor. When they get smaller, it creates new ones. There is also soy sauce. Ria knows that they cannot resist them. Eiji thinks that they were replenished after his victory over crabs. These ancient ruins have food and production machine. There is everything you need. They go inside and you show that the equipment produces soy sauce. Yoji Yamazaki sees a monitor and mouse, asks if it is really a computer. She says that, unfortunately, she cannot explain in more detail how he works. Futaba remembers that Ms. Ketty has always used this equipment to prepare soy sauce. He presses the button and thinks that he will now turn off the electricity. The menu appears on the screen. Ask what they want to do. RIA is scared and says that after clicking the button, there are some images. Yogi Yamazaki is moving and thinks about checking the soy sauce option. They show him the ingredients that will be used and ask for permission. It is amazed by Mizaki that the system is so simple. It agrees, and the car nearby begins to heat up. The girls are immediately alert. A bottle of dark liquid falls in front of them. Everyone looks with interest. Yoji Amazaki tries her and gladly says it is definitely soy sauce. He was afraid that the ingredients used 10,000 years ago were spoiled, but they were just as they should. He says it's amazing. Raya agrees with Love. The gentleman used all the equipment skillfully. He denies and says it is very simple, and they answer that he is modest. Ria says that the man himself realized how this equipment works. Even if he explained to her, she would still not understand. Futaba agrees with her. Yoji Yamazaki thinks it was easy, but praise was exaggerated. He offers to try something else. They rejoice. They go with products of products. They will replenish their food stocks. Futaba meets Kazumi and says 10,000 years have passed. The row was dressed. They teach everything on the table and say that everything is ready. On the table, soy sauce, ponza, miso, ketchup, and mayonnaise. Yogiyama also wished the Worcestershire sauce, that is, sweet and sour. It seems that complex ingredients are used there, so they decided to postpone it for later. Rei returns to him and thanks. She promises to do her best to cook dinner. Yadzi and Mizaki are glad that Ria is happy. Ria turns to Slim and asks if she can help her. She agrees. It is shown here that the kitchen is here. Yogi Yamazaki goes to the computer and thinks what else can be done. He presses the button and thinks. He's not sure whether it will work. 3 balls appear in front of him. He rejoices that everything happened. He takes one in his hands and says it is a candy from a monkey fruit. He tries and says it is delicious. It will prepare a few different tastes and give them rivers and others. They joyfully sit down at the table and offer to celebrate the capture of the 2nd floor. They drink for health. They look at and say there is something like a dining room. Next time, you need to invite Mary and Mary to a party. He bites the crab and is delighted with taste. He says it is divine. In his body there is a feeling of warmth and strength. Ray says it is probably magical forces from crab clones. He said that the stronger the magical power of the monster, the higher the concentration of magic that he can feel. This is a sense of magical power. He thinks his body asks yet, but he can do nothing. Now it is clear to him why Ria and others wanted his saliva so. Ria tries her and says happily, so it's soy sauce. She says the meat of this crab resembles fish sauce, but it is tender and soft. She really likes the taste. It continues to suck the pieces. Yogi Yamazaki says he is glad because Ryus is satisfied. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that ponza is more suitable for crab, but today he wanted to emphasize the taste of soy sauce, so he used little potes. Futaba asks if everyone is eating. She puts food and says you can eat as much as you like. There are still a lot of food. Yoga Amazaki awkwardly how she says because everything was prepared by Ri. Futaba says her feature is to clean the table, and she knows good. Yogi Amazaki asks why she has such an interested ability. She sighs. She says Miss Ketty liked to cook. She really wants to learn how to cook. Kazumi strokes her on her back, soothes, and she further chews crab meat. Ria looks at a Slim that also enjoys food and says it is very tasty. Opening the 2nd floor, they were given a lot of benefits. They can eat crabs until they are saturated. At this time, a girl is in the forest. The vampire approached and left the message. This vampire goes the forest and looks around, as if he does not know this place. She lifts her head and says it is surprisingly quiet. When a very strong creature appears, weaker monsters hide in their burrows and do not go out. The vampire smiles, exposing your teeth. She wants to find this man faster and fight him. She looks around and sees people near the lake. Yogi Masaki stands next to a Slim that is full of energy. The vampire is amazed at what magical power is. Yoga Amazaki tells her that if you drink a lot, there will be a stomach. The vampire understands that this guy is ordinary and the girl is quite different. She understands that it is the power of man. She thinks if the opponent is stronger, the more she is aroused. She sneaks on them and says she is about to kill her. Yogi Yamazaki is worried about Slippery and says she drinks too much. The vampire pulls out claws. Yogi Yamazaki are sharply supplied. She falls on her back. Yoga Masaki looks around scared and sees a girl. The vampire recedes from him and does not understand why he behaves. Yogi Yamazaki asks whether she is all right with her and whether she is injured. She does not know that his abilities and body are ordinary. He is just such a person. She looks seriously and carefully. She thinks she doesn't matter who he is if he is in the way to her. She will kill him. It sharply attacks with a knife and swings. It stops. He looks at the knife and sees that he has just broken. She is horrified because it was a secret blade given to her in a magical clan. He clumsily says it scared him. Yoji Yamazaki asks her if it's really a toy. She begins to merge and tremble. Yoji Yamazaki says this thing is bad because she broke immediately after the 1st blow. The vampire turns breath and tells himself that you need to calm down. She will not be able to win if she is nervous. She asks the name Yogya Mamadzaki. He smiles and asks her name. She fades and thinks she knew it. She heard that the power of people was strange. She did not notice it before, because his power is too great. It suddenly disappears in front of Yotsuyazaki and already stands on a tree branch. Yotsuyazaki asks her to wait. She strictly and seriously says that her name is Keenan. Let him remember it. She only tells him about it. She comes from him. Yogi Masaki believes that they will meet it very soon. He thinks that it was and by whom this baby was. Slimmy turned into mucus and sits in his arms. They go home. Late at night, the guns stand at the entrance to the cave. She thinks when she jumps off the break. She was asked by a name. When she was a baby, she met her husband. He said that her strength was struck. He says he would like her to help them in their plans. They want to use her strength as weapons. She reaches out his hand in response to his proposal to make sure they are better than these people. She takes herself by the other hand and begins to tremble a lot. She thinks that there is only alone. Then she shakes her head and drives these thoughts. She thinks that if she attacks her in her sleep, she will have a chance to win. So time has come. She wants to go into the cave, but sees the Slim in front of him. She makes sounds angry. Slimmy disappears in her eyes. Immediately after that, the cannon looks around. She notices the attack behind his fist and has time to defend herself. Kanan is grown with pain and thinks that the blow has been strong. The slippery retreats and stands in front of her. Keenan fades. He raises his head, sees the mucus balls and understands what will happen next. In a moment to hear a long cry, Ria and Yoga Amakazi sleep sweetly on the bed. The mucous membrane is inhumane and trying to say something. Suddenly he screams sharply. Both immediately wake up and rise from the cry. Yoji Yamazaki asks what happened. Mucus balls tell everything. They go outside. Yoji Yamazaki asks Slima what happened. He then sees a Kainen sitting in front of a Slim without clothes and demands that she be killed. Yogi Yamasaki is not sure whether these words really heard. Yogi Yamasaki slowly approaches her. Ria protects him and asks the master not to approach. Ria asks if this girl is a vampire and looks away. Ray says that among the demonic clans, this race has a very high combat force. It is probably the killer who was sent to pick up the life of the ruler. Yoga Amazaki looks at her and cannot believe that this girl is a killer. Yoga Amazaki sees her name to clarify whether it is true. This means that, in her opinion, it is in vain, even if he asks for it. For the killers to give the name of the customer, worse than death. The canon lowers the eyes and again asks to kill her quickly. She sadly says that she lost the battle, so there is no point in living for her. Yogi Masaki thinks that she was more surprised by being caught by Slim. He remembers something. He goes out and asks to wait a little, promises to return soon. The girls look at him with a question. He returns and thanks them for the expectations. He gives her a candy, and she is surprised. Yogi Yamazaki says it's a candy. It is delicious and sweet. He gives her to make her no more wrong. Ray says that, in her opinion, this man is too soft with little girls. The Slim stands nearby and also agrees with her. Later, Keenan goes and thinks it was awful. She stops and looks at the candy. She then opens the wrapper and examines the candy. She lifts the candy to the sky, looks at it for a long time, and then puts it with interest in her mouth and tastes. Her cheeks were swollen. She thinks it is delicious. She jumps and sings. Then he hears a voice that says she is in a good mood. This is a guy, Grace, who used her strength as weapons. She asks him why he is here. Grace says he's terrible that she said so because he came because of caring for her. He asks her if she learned where this man lives. She replies that she has already learned. This is not a problem for her. Grace says she understands and glad to hear it. He strictly asks why she did what she was not ordered. She cries a little. She asks what he is talking about. He tells her not to think that he can deceive him. She knew that his subordinates were watching her. He asks again whether humanity is strong. She thinks what to answer. After thought, she says he is strong. She may not be able to win him. Grace replies that it is obvious to him. He is disappointed to say that it creates some problems. It is an important part of this strategy, but if she cannot defeat this man, he no longer needs it. Hearing these words, she shudders. She remembers all the times when she was told to leave. She was told that her strength would later be a threat to the village and wanted it to disappear. The canon begins to sweat and tremble. Grace suits and asks her to calm down. If she cannot defeat people immediately, he can get the same power as they have. He extends her a bottle of pills. Kanan thinks that's the case. Then he says he had previously told her about it. These pills are created on the basis of human artifacts. After receiving one pill, it will receive the same forces as people. Kenan happily says that these pills are not yet completed. He smiles and assures that everything is well. They are constantly being improved. One pill will not cause side effects. He asks if she really wants to be left alone as before. Keenan continues to tremble. She shakes her head and takes one pill. She takes a pill. Grace smiles. The guns begin to sound. She has tears and swells a vein. Grace smiles and thinks it is for her. Kenan wants her to play her last role. Yoji Amayaki and Rhea sleep in their bed. In a dream, she says that this gentleman is self-confident. They wake up again and shout. Yoga Amazaki asks what is happening this time. She replies that he does not know. Then he proposes to leave and preserve. They run to the exit. Yoyamazaki is worried about whether the Kanan is a murderer and whether she has come to her. When they go, the man shouts that he finally found it. The ball flies to the river, but Yodzima stifles her by hair and saves it from a blow. The man laughs and exclaims that it is incredible. His whole body is full of power. They look and recognize the old man. Kazumi approaches them and addresses this master. He sees her almost without clothes and is frightened whether everything is fine with her. They run away. Kazumi on the road says that everything is normal with it, but the slim and other barriers are broken. Enemies attack the first floor. She is worried, but Slim and others are safe. She says they are now in full swing. They broke through only because they are more. By abilities, the opponent is still stronger. She believes that the Slim and others will soon join if she wakes up. Rei says Yodzi Yamazaki that they will deal with Kazumi with enemies on this floor. It can help Fatabi on the second floor. He asks if they are sure that they will cope with the two. It points to the old man and says that if it is her opponent, then there are no problems. She immediately uses a fire stroke. Yodzi Yamazaki slowly goes and thinks it was a good shot. He meets Kanan. She says she finally found him. She smiles and puts a knife into the stomach. It drops on one knee with a groan. Rei runs to him with a concern and asks if everything is fine with him. Yogi Yamazaki says that all is well. The wound is not deep. He asks to take care of Cyber and others. She wants to deny, but Cyber attacks her from behind. She evades the impact. She thinks it is really bad, but if he tells Rei, she will worry. The pain seems as if he had eaten a lot of ice. He trembles and hears a voice that says it was unexpected. Grace appears and says that this magical weapon is called Bloody Rain. It can cut any matter. As he thought, Grace says the power of humanity is quite interesting. Yodzi Amadaki gets up and asks who he is. He replies that his name is Grace. He is from a simple tribe of demons. Amazaki Yoga realizes that these are demons. He asks whether he gave the relics of Rex and Kiber. They answer that yes. The relic they have created is different from it because they have drawbacks in different areas. Therefore, he used them as subjects. Yoji Amazaki begins to angry and shout that human life is worthless for him. The canon approaches him and says that she is his opponent. She attacks and swings with a knife, touching his neck. Yomazaki's Yogi trembles and says that everything would be dangerous if it had happened a few centimeters below. Grace says Keenan that he cannot kill him. Keenan replies that he knows it. She says with an empty look that she will not miss the next time. Yoja Mizaki thinks that he will die then, so he decides to obey his boss' orders. It continues to attack and it evades as it can. He understands that she has become much faster than before. He screams at her, even if she does not admit that the demonic tribe gave him something in response. She asks, "And what is it, if so?" Yogi Yamazaki screams. She didn't hear what he just said. The artifacts he creates are not yet ready. He understands that he can become a subject. She replies that this is not important. Thanks to this medicine, it has become stronger, so it is. She will do everything to get this medicine again. Now she needs to overcome it. Yoji Amazaki is concerned and desperately calls it by name. Ria shouts to him from the back that it is in vain to talk to her. Ria shouts that the darkness of the relics has already absorbed this girl. Yogi Masaki thinks that today he does not want to believe the words of Raya. He decides that in no circumstances he wants to see Keenan sick. He remembers how she kept his candy with interest. He recalls something and begins to rush in his pockets. He gets the candy and says that she will give her sweets if she comes to her senses. Kanan attacks again, ignoring his words, and asks if he is crazy. Yoji Amadaki gets a blow and thinks that reality is not as pleasant as their candy. Grace says it's useless. Whatever he does, she is completely under her control. Yoga Amazaki trembles all. Blood flows from it. He is surprised that there is so much blood that he cannot think clearly. He looks at the blood on his palm and thinks he understands. Grace says Kanana is her chance. She listens and is preparing to attack. Yoji Amazaki stands still and thinks there is only one way to act. He grabs her knife with bare hands. It enhances the body magic on the verge of possibilities, holding the blade. Kenon, which is a vampire, bites his neck and instantly opens his eyes. It falls on the floor. Grace screams. She understands that he has to kill this man. Kenan begins to cry, throws a knife and says he does not want to harm this man. Then Yoga Amazaki thinks that she finally came to her senses, his blood. The real power of the relic worked. He thinks that now only mercy is left. He is approaching quickly. He attacks Grace, he falls and loses the mask. Ray approaches him and says that they have won everyone who attacked them. She suddenly stops and says she cannot be scared. Yogi Yamazaki asks what happened. From this man comes strong magical energy. She points to Grace and says that only people can have the same power as the master. UGM, Azaki thinks if there is someone but him. Grace exhales several times and says it was a terrible mistake. He takes his mask, puts it back and says he saw his real face. He also felt his magic as expected from man. Yogi Adzaki thinks that people from this world died thousands of years ago. He may also be called from another world. Grace reaches out his hand, and the knife flies to him. He says Judzi Amachaki do not forget that he will once pay him away. He clicks his fingers and disappears instantly. Yogi Amazaki and Ria remain in place with alarming faces. Later, Rosa gets up and says he takes care of the cabin and his subordinates. Yoji Yamazaki says he rests on her. He extends her a bottle. She asks what it is. He says it is the residue of water from the bathroom. Water will help remove the side effects of the poison. Roy says it is quite expensive. Can they give it? Eiji replies that yes, but only because the demons used it. Ray fits and reports that she has finished sealing the curse. Eiji says it's a good job. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that now that Grace knows about his hiding place, he will no longer be able to hide in this world. A few days after the attack, Kenan sits with him at the table. She says Yoji Yamazaki that the sauce he calls ketchup is delicious. The gun is now kept under their protection in a storage. She drunk ketchup and asks Yoga Amazaki to give more because this has already ended. Ria carefully wipes his mouth. Yoga Amazaki says she knew. She would like it. He also gets and says he has done more. They ask what it is. He replies that he does not know how it works, but tried to make another bottle in the gourmet area. He does not know exactly. Yogi Yamasaki says she seems to love him very much, so there is a whole bottle. It coughs, choking saliva, and looks at the bottle with great love. She begins to eat ketchup with spoons and says Yoji Yamazaka that this is a good job. Ria is indignant because it is rough. Yoji Yamazaki says he has a separate portion for Slimmies. Kanana says that Ria is very interfered with. Whatever Ria does, this ketchup belongs to Kananan, because he was presented by Joji Yamazaki. Ria begins to tremble with anger. She turns to Yomasaki with tears and asks him to tell her something. He says to eat a lot of ketchup. But what if the gun is made of ketchup? They do not understand and ask. He explains, such a person loves ketchup very much and adds to everything. Kenan says that this nickname is very good. Since then, she is a ketchup girl. She asks if it is not an honorable title. Fadaba quickly cleans and gladly says that cleaning can be trusted. She hugs Amazaki Yoga on the bed, and Keenan watches them. She calls him by name. They are scared. She says Keenan's turn is now. The ranking stands away. Yoga Amazaki mentally apologized to the river, but it is necessary for its development. Ria is waiting quietly. Now the kiss has become part of a daily routine. Kanan opens his mouth and bites himself in the shoulder. Everyone looks frightened. Kanan continues to drink blood. The appearance of Yogazaki begins to change. Ria stops her and asks if she should not go. The gun appears near her and says Ri's mouth. She is sure that Yamazaki Yogi likes her flat torso. She is directly asking Joji Yamazaki about it. She tries to hug him, but he sits in silence. In this world, flat breasts like more, so this character is not accidental. Ria says she is sorry. Then Rei intervenes and shouts the canon that the master is not interested in her ironing board. At the same time, it presses on Yogumazaki. She asks whether she is not lost. She has answered that no. Amadaki Yoga is on the other side. The canon says it's nonsense. Men usually love little breasts. Ria asks the master to confess because he likes big breasts. The canon denies and says that Yomazaki prefers small breasts. The slim beats them both on the head to push away from themselves. He thinks whether two people who had to meet were really erected. Now goblins go forest and look for food. One of them picks a dried fruit and says there is nothing good here. He says that three in the center of the forest, they cannot find food or space for the night. He does not understand who they are. Their magic is so strong that it is impossible to approach. They see a flock of wolves and hide immediately. They do not understand why wolves are here. They decide to inform the host eagle. They go to their hiding place and run up to the mane. Golden Eagle is an old man sitting in front of a large ball. They, together with the leader of the wolf flock, shout that are hungry. They think of the same thing. Negotiations continue. Joy Yamazaki from RL believes that the defense needs to be strengthened. Slima with joy drinks from the bottle. Yogamasaki asks whether she is involved in search under the second floor. It replies that no, it is about increasing the number of people to protect the storage. Fadaba, as always, removes from the table. Rei says that during the attack she realized they are not enough. They will not be able to protect themselves if they attack stronger. Yoji Yamazaki agrees and says they really have only a few strong people. He proposes to find like-minded people and unite those who want to work with them, the army of people. Yogi Yamazaki asks that for the army of people. This is very confused. Rei sadly says that all this is because he is an army with a commander headed. She asks whether Joji Yamadaki does not like it. He replies that this is wrong, don't worry, the name is good, but he thinks that it sounds like an army of demons. He asks what can help. Ria says that Yamazaki has nothing to do. Kanan adds that I also agree if Yamazaki does not do anything. She says they will do everything with River. Yodzi and Mizaki think it is impossible. It can only organize a bath and food for the human army. He calls for doubt whether he is only formally a manager. If it really is. His schedule is as follows. He woke up, had breakfast, spoke with the girls, had lunch, gave, strolled, dinner. He begins to think with bitterness whether he is really worthless. Kenan asks what happened. He is awkward that everything is fine. They go and say they leave this place to him. He waves them with his hand and thinks that he now has more time for training. He trains with a slim, runs, meditates, and shoots. But all this is her. Then he sadly asks for forgiveness. Rei approaches him and says they found new participants in the army of people. They are waiting outside. He comes out and sees the head of the wolf flock next to the eagle. Yang is coming behind and thanks Yodzi Yamazaki for expectations. One of them is an eagle from the goblin tribe. The other is Yang from the wolf tribe. Kenan says they both want to swear allegiance to Yogi Masaki. Yogi Yamasaki thinks of himself why he does not feel devotion in them. Jan says he hoped to meet someone of the legendary human race, so a little disappointed. Oral says their expectations were too high. Yogi Yamazaki whispers with the whisper whether she is sure that they want to join. She thinks and says it's strange. Raya says that for 2 hours she told them what a wonderful Yogi Yamazaki. She may have not been convincing enough. She bows her head and says she is very sorry. She did not expect them to be insurgents. Rei says aloud that she should kill them. Everyone is frightened. Yoga Masaki in a panic says that no one has to kill. Ria was a knight, so sometimes he is too indifferent to life and death. He will try to explain it. Oral returns to Ria. He says he wanted to swear to her because of her delight. But his oath is a completely different matter. He agrees and says that he only accepted the canon. They are the tribe of wolves who will die better than obey such a stupid order. His words indignate him. Yodzi Yamadaki asks Rei whether she remembers how she gave it to him. She immediately understands and speaks of a magical seal on the ring. She returns his rings. He puts on the ring and thinks that he can almost completely restrain his magic. He says he will show him all the power of humanity if he impresses it. He asks if he recognizes him. He proudly says that he saw only the level of level B and nothing is surprised. Oral says it is interesting, but she never compares to River. At this time, Amazaki Yogi causes a fiery ball. The fiery ball increases to the size of the bomb and explodes directly above them. They are horrified and ask if it is really legendary fiery magic. Oral calls him a liar and says he got this ring from Rei. Perhaps this ring even enhances its magic. Yoshi Yamazaki says he misunderstood everything. This ring weakens his strength. Oral turns away and says that he no longer wants to hear anything from him. Oral smiles and says that he may try to use magic without rings. Yoga Amadaki looks at him with distrust and understands that if he does so, the whole forest will work. It does not answer. Oral says he can't do it, so he was not mistaken. The magic was from the ring. Others says he was almost as deceived. Yodzi M. Azaka notes that the use of the ring has become a habit for him. He thinks how to convince them that he is a person. Oral says he did not expect such a strong ride from Rei. He asks if you really use a high-level magic stone, but he does not understand what it is. Oral asks whether he really knows nothing. He has explained that jewelry is made of crystals with a lot of magic and have a strong and diverse power. Yogi Amadzak believes that it is just a more powerful magic stone. Oral says they are ready to convey the legendary magic stone of the goblin tribe. He becomes strongly red and asks if she will accept it. The stone is large and round. They look and think, here she is, magical jewelry. The ball disappears instantly from his hands. It was the arrival owner who took the ball from him. The guy asks what he is doing. The owner calmly replies that the ball belongs to him. He says that the magic stone initially belonged to the wolf's tribe, and they only stole it from them. Oral does not understand what it is about, because he stole the father of that man first. He begins to be angry. He shouts that it is nonsense, because his grandfather began. Yogi Yamazaki believes that this precious stone has long become an obstacle. Kanan turns to Ina and asks him not to behave roughly near Yodzi Yamazaki. Yodzi apologizes because he wanted to give her this jewel. Oral shouts that it is impolite. This stone belongs to Rei. Why does he want to give him this unknown? He states that it will not allow you to talk about the gun. The jewelry is not suitable for cow's udder. Raya with a smile offers just to kill them, but Yoga Amazaki stops her. He returns to the Kanan and asks if she can give him this stone. She gives him it and asks what he will do with it until they continue to fight. He says that if he finds a solution to this conflict, he may be believed. Yoga Amadaki sneezes, and because of this, the stone breaks. Everyone stands in shock and says he does not believe. How you can break this stone sneezing? Oral can't believe. He asks if the man really is a man. He apologizes for a broken thing. People answer that the fight is already a defeat. Yogi Yamazaki says that if the cause was in this stone, the conflict is exhausted. He bows immediately and says that the wolf tribe wants to join the human army. He asks to accept them. The eagle sits nearby and says that the goblin tribe also wants to join. The wolf lies on his back and shows his stomach, trusting people. It is a great honor for them to meet a real person. Yogi Yamazaki looks at a broken stone and thinks if everything is fine. Rei admires him again. After that, the Hublin and Wolves tribe join the human army. Everyone is hiding in the bushes and screaming, frightened by Yoga Amazaki that everything is fine, and report the situation. Yogi Amazaki considers it a little strange. They want to create an alliance. If the human army grows, conflict with the imperial city will become inevitable. Eiji believes that it has become smarter. The village of Maku is located between the shelter and the imperial city, so it is important to unite with them. Yogi Yamazaki says they may go there then. Ria says it is a small village with a population of 500 people. It is located in the environment of monsters, so there are many adventurers from the capital. In the village of Mako, they are dressed in a raincoat and a scarf. Ria says it's strange. Last time it was much more lively. Someone calls Ri and asks to come as soon as possible. Rei returns and says it is a teacher who has not seen for a long time. She asks if he received her letter. He says something interesting will happen soon. He asks her not to be so removed. If she said before they could help, She apologizes. They had problems, so she couldn't talk to him. Joji Yamazaki sees no one. He asks Ri who she is talking to. She smiles and asks her to present it. She shows on a black cat and says it is the head of the village of Mako. His name is Rachel. She says she taught her magic when she was in the imperial city. Yogi Yamazaki fades from shock and does not understand anything. The cat says that this house is a little old and empty, but here you can feel like at home. Ray prepares tea. There are many toys around the cat in the form of mice and fish. Rachel plays the ball and says that the man made a strange facial expression. Because he is a cat, he does not need ordinary furniture. Yogi Yamazaki thinks that this is not true. Yoji Yamazaki asks if he really knows that he is a man. Rachel replies that he understood it. At first glance, it was seen that it was different from others. He asks that he thinks of Yoji Yamazaki. Yogi Yamadazai briefly replies that he is a cat. He says even the great wise Rachel seems insignificant in front of the human face. Ria says that at first the teacher was the captain of the knights in the imperial city. She was the captain of the strongest knight detachment. The name of the great sage Rachel is known to all. Rachel winks and says she was the most beautiful girl in the imperial city. Too bad she cannot show her wonderful figure. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that the most beautiful girl of the imperial city was more beautiful than the river. He asks how she was able to turn into a cat until Ria spills tea for all. Rachel says something happened. Silence comes. The cat begins to eat. Yoji Amadaki thinks he can't believe it. Instead of something important, she just said something happened. He begins to think whether it is worth knowing more. Rachel says that, as expected, milk from Ria is the most delicious. Raya thanks her. Rachel speaks of a letter about an alliance with the army of people. Yogi Yamazaki does not understand how everything has come to it. Rachel gets up and says he cannot make this decision in a hurry. She is the head of the village and does not belong to herself. This decision means to go against the imperial city. Rachel licks his lips and says that the decision depends not only on it. Yoga Yamazaki agrees that this is true. To join their union means becoming an enemy for the whole world. On her part, this decision is logical. Rachel says he cannot refuse because it is the request of her beloved student. Ray is joyfully asking if this is true. Rachel adds that she has several conditions, especially for people. She asks whether he is for the first time in this village and what she thinks about the local. He says he heard about a village where many adventurers, but now it is quite empty. He asks if something really happened here. Rachel nods and talks about the evil dragon. The adventurer who saw and survived him gave him such a name. This village was founded on the site of hunting grounds, so it is well suited for beginners. For example, a horned rabbit is easy to catch, and its price in the market is high. When traces of evil dragon appeared in the eastern forest of hunting grounds, people began to come. Ria says that in this case, it is better to seek help from the imperial city. Rachel replies that this is not possible. She says she was already asking them. Ria says it is impossible. What do the knights do? Do they not have to protect citizens? Rachel shakes his head and says that it will not help, because everyone is busy with a cold who has recently woke up. Ray and Yoga Amazaki are nervous when they hear about the runny nose. Rachel says that the small village of Maku is unlikely to receive help. Those two sit, bowing their heads, and I think it is impossible. A few days ago, they saw a small wild boar. Ria says she wanted to catch the adult, but accidentally wounded this poor man. She says her recovery magic is still too weak for that. A small boar shakes. Yoji Yamazaki says he should cure him with his magic. He uses treatment spell. The boar gets up and escapes. Ria says it is incredible. He was relieved immediately, but corpses began to emerge from the ground. They do not understand what it is. Eiji's magic is so strong that she was able to awaken buried bodies. She expected this. Eiji believes that it is completely his fault. Now the runny nose had to go to the imperial capital. Rachel asks what it is. He in a panic replies that it is nothing. Rachel asks if he realized what she wanted to say. Here is the first condition. If the dragon is not killed, it will soon destroy the village. She adds that if you unite with the village saves, residents will take it better. She says they should do it. It does not have time to finish the phrase because they both shout and ask them to give them. Rachel asks them not to respond so emotionally. She tells you to start going to Taverna on the outskirts of the city and finding out information about the dragon. There are less adventure seekers now than usual. They come to the guild. Yoji Amayaki looks and thinks it is incredible. This is what a tavern adventures look like. Ria proposes to split and collect information. Yoga Masaki agrees. The blonde turns to them and looks at the question. Yogi and Midzaki go through the tavern. He hopes to learn at least something about the evil dragon. He approaches the old man, apologizes for the distraction, but wants to ask something. He returns and asks whether he is really a beginner. Yogamazaki says he is interested in everything that is associated with an evil dragon. The old man immediately chokes and sheds everything. Yoji Amadaki asks whether all is well and apologizes. He asks if you can contact someone else. He says he doesn't want to help stupid people. Everyone begins to refuse. Rei and Yogi Yamazaki are sitting on the stairs in a strange pose. Yoji says who they would not ask. The answer is the same. Rei says that among the seekers the topic of evil dragon is taboo. Yoji Yamadaki says that nothing can be changed and offers to go to the eastern forest. Then they approach the blonde. She asks if they are new, who want to fight an evil dragon. They are in front of a team of 4 people. Rei immediately notices the girl and asks who it is. She immediately apologizes for her rudeness. She says her name is Nero and a big man behind Molozov. Next to the child, Datan, and a man with long hair, Zoilus. They are inwound adventurers from the village of Maku. Yogi Yamazaki quietly asks Rei whether strong adventurers of the rank B. She replies that they are strong enough. Rank B is the 3rd rank. Nero speaks straight. If they want to join the expedition, Yoji Yamazaki joyfully asks if it is a failure. He asks her to explain why they want to kill the dragon. Nero asks if she had not told him anymore. All members of her team were born in the village of Maku. She must travel the world, but loves these places very much. She believes that victory over evil dragon will help her thank the village. She holds his hand and smiles. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that this is their small homeland. Now he wants to help them for personal reasons. He presses her hand and says that he is glad to cooperate. Suddenly, Zoila shouts at Nero that he is against it. He asks how to cooperate with people who we know nothing about. Ria exclaims that it is very rough. Little Dighton asks if they really want to feed the evil dragon. Akira with iodine replies that yes. In his thoughts, he bitterly accuses himself that he could not call help from the capital. Mazeppa says it is easy to speak. He asks if they know the power of the evil dragon, who replies that he heard about the dragon's strength from Rachel. They ask and wonder, did the great sage really ask them for help? Who are they? Nero smiles and says everything goes as she thought. Nero tightly presses Yogi Amadaki's hand and says her eyes are deceiving her. If they are familiar with the sage Rachel, they are very strong. Yoga Amadaki thinks that Rachel trusts him too much. She says that if there is no more problem, you can distribute roles. She asks what they are well versed in. Yoga Amadaki begins to be nervous. He has not told himself since the last interview for a long time. He doesn't know what to say. He thinks that he cannot simply call himself a person. Rei asks for the intervention, removes the hood and seems like a lily. She says she is best able to restore magic. Yoga Amadaki doubts if her real name is. It adds that it can protect the rear or fight the sword on the front. She says she is a doctor. She presses her hand and says that few people here have the magic of healing, so she is waiting for her. Zoil asks Nero not to trust everyone. Soil says that people who claim that they can usually become a burden. Nero asks him to silence, but Soil is indignant because he believes that the truth tells. He shows that they cannot be sure they know the great sage. He wants to see himself. He especially does not like that this slut indicates Yoji Yamazaki. He says that as a sword can appreciate a person by his hands and how he holds the sword. It seems to him that this person has never held anything heavier than a pen. Suddenly, Eiji noticed a girl with horror. She stood a little, then went forward and sadly exclaimed. Raya Fitz uses magic, presses it face to the ground, and requires silence. Nero sounds excitedly to Zoe, who trembles and asks what she has done. Ria tells him to be grateful. She says the magic of gravity will help him apologize to the teacher. Yomazaki does not understand why. Dighton leans and says he cannot believe that he sees the magic of gravity. In this country, Only the great wise Rachel and Empress Sarah can use such magic. Raya tells him to apologize or go to the other. Yoga Amazaki is convinced that she wants to kill him. Zoilus apologizes and says he understood, so they did not lie about communicating with the great sage. Nero says Lily will be a doctor. She returns to Joji Yamazaki and asks that he is able. Yogi Yamazaki becomes even more nervous. Ria comes out and says that he will explain everything. The master does not have one thing in which he is the best. Yoga Amasaki thinks about it. He has a very mediocre abilities. Rhea says that he succeeds everything he takes for, so he is universal. Yodzi Amadaki is shocked. Nero asks what he means. She explains that the magic and technical martial arts of Yoga Masaki have no equal. She says he is an example for anyone who lives here, and his image is respectful. Edgy verse says it is not true. It is ordinary, most common, nothing is different. Nero says that if she said it means it is true. Ria says the master is 10,000 times stronger than her. Nero says they will not hesitate and expect a lot from the universal. She proposes to prepare weapons and go to the eastern forest. Yogi Yamazaki believes that there are too many obstacles in the way. They go forest. Nero says that they have almost entered the territory of the evil dragon, so you need to be careful. All tense. Yoga Amazaki goes quietly in the forest. Suddenly, a huge wolf with an open mouth jumps on him. Nero prepares the arrow and screams Yoga Amazaki that it is a magical monster. Yoga Amazaki does not have time to react, and Nero falls directly into the eye of the monster. Yoga Amazaki is amazed. It's incredibly, she hit the first time. Zoil with aggression goes forward. He waves the sword and cuts off the head of the wolf monster. However, another wolf runs to him from behind. It rotates and frightens, and Mazeppa tries to get the wolf with his bare hands. Malasov goes and says Zoil that could not be relaxed. He smiles and thanks him for his help. Dayton comes out with a magic wand and asks her to trust her further. It uses magic and compresses the remaining monsters. Yoga Masaki stands with his mouth open and thinks that this is the adventurers of the Adventure B. Then Ria returns to him. It rotates and sees a satisfied river. She proudly says she has already dealt with them. Yodzi Amazaki is surprised to see the mountain of wolves. Daiton asked if Lilia did not say that she was Hiller. Zoilis and Clarkson say it is not surprising because she was able to put them on the floor. Molozov adds that he likes her movements. Agi believes that it was too much. Ray says that she is quite insignificant compared to the master. If it uses all force, the monsters will be destroyed instantly. Nero does not believe in it, and she rejoices in such an opinion. Yogi Yamazaki realizes that things are bad. Nero looks at him with suspicion. She reminds his wife whose husband lost all the money in the casino. Zoil approaches her and says it is not necessary to worry. Zoil proudly says that with such a strong person as Lily, they do not need the help of Universal. Dayton agrees and adds that Lily is useful for their safety. These words are wounded by Yagi's pride. He stands and trembles, thinking that he is a station wagon. Raya returns to him and says that even if people do not consider it, she sees his true strength. Yodzi Amachaki looks at her with tears in her eyes. Ria says acting helps to hide her strength. She considers it a true trick. Yoga Amakazaki thinks of herself that her kindness has no limits. They hear the rustle of trees. Someone shouts that it looks like a magical monster. Nero exclaims that it is an evil dragon. A large black monster appears in front of them and looks at them from above. He opens his mouth and growls, pushing the enemy a few meters ago. He closes his face with his hand and thinks that it smells bad here. Everyone is shouting in a panic. They do not withstand the pressure. Along with Nero, their clothes fall down, and they fall directly on the Agi. Agi lifts his eyes and sees that Ria looks dissatisfied with them. Agi does not understand what happened to everyone. The reason is that the dragon suddenly released a huge amount of magical energy. Everyone will not be able to stand on their feet for some time. Yogi Yamazaki now understands what is happening. Yogi Yamazaki realizes that these people are stronger than ordinary adventurers, but even won them an evil dragon. The dragon flies off the ground and flies directly to them. Ray does not hesitate and immediately uses a burning plate that seems too small. The dragon in response opens the mouth and causes a fiery ball. Riff fades for a moment and understands what will happen now. The fiery ball flies directly on them. a huge explosion that is visible from afar. Eiji has time to grab the ray and take away from the impact. She uses a good shield. Eiji puts Ray on the ground. Ray apologizes that she has disgraced him. He replies that she always helps him, so everything is fine. Raya says the dragon receives magical power from the relic created by the demons. This thought comes to Yoga Amasaki in the head. They run away from the attacks of the dragon. In a panic, Joji Amadaki asks River what to do to defeat the enemy. She says an evil dragon is a net that feeds on the energy of a demonic artifact. She adds that if the dragon's strength is here, then the master will be able to solve the problem by directing his good energy there. Yodzi Yamazaki says that everything is clear now and offers to throw a dragon's hair to his mouth. Strikoses fly directly on them and at the same time release fireballs. Yogyamashaki rotates first and then begins to run further, thinking that it is impossible. This returns Dog Amazaki and offers them to take a step back and change the strategy. Dog Amazaki refuses this plan. He thinks of guys and says they will not cope. He remembers the dead and hesitates what to do. He thinks the idea, though he is not sure whether she works. It's still better than running back. Yodzumazaki stops and screams to disappear. The dragon is immediately pressed to the ground. Ray understands that it is the magic of gravity. The source of the relic force is humans, so his body acts just like a relic. He treats the dragon, and he begins to twist and grow. All the dark power and mass of the dragon disappear. Yoji Yamazaki barely holds on his feet and says he has won. Only the skeleton remained from the dragon, and Ray runs to him with delight and reward. Later at home, Rachel tells them that they did well. Emizaki does not agree. He believes that this is the merit of Rachel. He thanks her for sending Nero to their rescue. Rachel says that there is a good relationship between the village of Maku and the human army. If the royal capital suspects something, they will immediately send a message. Ria smiles and thanks Rachel. She says the teacher's support is very inspiring. Eiji thought. He thinks of who is Rachel. The Great Wise, the former captain of the Knights, one of the best magic teachers. She is just hiding in the appearance of a cat. He looks at her thoughtfully. Rachel smiles and asks why he looks at her. He waves his hands awkwardly and says nothing has happened. In his thoughts, he believes that he is asked senseless. Rachel smiles and says he can show if he wants. He looks at her with a question. In a moment, Rachel turns into a girl without clothes and tells him to look until he can still. Yogi Yamazaki begins to blush greatly. He shouts silently and sharply closes his eyes with the forearm. Ria looks at him with a question. Rachel sits again in the form of a cat. Yogi Amayaki picks up his hand and looks at the cat with distrust. Rachel says Ray chooses men well. She says a little upset but thinks, if she were a little younger, they could meet without problems. But in the form of a cat, it is impossible. Yoga Amachaki sits and does not understand how she deceived his mind. Ria sits nearby, angry, squeezing his teeth, calls her a teacher. She pulls a cat for her cheeks and says she will not allow her to flirt with Yamazaki, even if she is a teacher. She replies that she understood her, so let him let go. The army of people in the village of Mako formed an alliance. The conquest is completed. It seems that only a person could do it. A crowd gathers around the dragon's skeleton. People look at him. They say it is incredible and do not believe it is really the guy.